810 WHB.
I think we beat the young guys up over the week to understand what type of level of play we need from them and the expectation playing playoff football in Arrowhead, Jiha, Giha, wherever stadium. Oh, it's not Giha? Oh, excuse me. My apologies. That's okay. Giha.
You're in the zone on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
Welcome to the Zone, Monday edition. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson, no Jason Anderson. He will be back tomorrow. Jason's back tomorrow, so that means the party goes on today. It's a long weekend. We had Friday. We got Monday. Let's party, boys. Got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Royals splitting with the Cardinals. What that means, big series up ahead starting today. We'll talk, obviously, a lot of Chiefs. And not just about what we saw, but what we think everything means, including the new kickoff. Special teams. Special teams again. We talked with Matt Derrick on Friday, Dylan. We were talking about how impactful special teams might be. Well, you saw the exact reason why on Saturday. I did text Mick Schaefer on Sunday just to make sure. What time was the game? Sunday at noon, right? I couldn't find the game Sunday at noon. Had to text Mick. Everyone have a easy time finding the game? Jack, you found it pretty good on Saturday?
It is pretty easy for me.
Pretty easy for you? I'm a cable guy, so it's easy for me.
Yeah.
Dylan?
Yeah, very easy. Just went and bought rabbit ears, and I'll have the receipt ready for when I take it back.
How much do rabbit ears cost? $20?
Nah,
I've never purchased them before, so I don't know if
it's
I gave you a good
$15.
estimate.
Yeah,
15.
Walmart.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad,
Just
Dylan.
I'm not going to use them outside of this.
We got
so.
game 1 and preseason game 3. We'll have the same thing, I'm pretty sure, preseason game 3. So
Yeah,
better keep those a couple more weeks. I don't know what the
it's
return
a 30 day. 30 day. So
Oh, you're gonna be up
I'll be
against
pushing it, yeah,
You'll be
but-
pushing it. You'll be
but-
up against it.
yeah.
All right. Do we want to start with the positives, the negatives? Where do you want to go with this? Jack, I'll let you. How do you feel on this Monday? I know it's dreary outside.
Yeah,
it's not
terrible weather.
Not a good looking Monday. It's cold in here. I don't have my jacket. Didn't have breakfast.
No, me neither.
Jack,
I was much later than you were, so I definitely did not have. I didn't have time to go grab the coffee over there in the break room, so I'll be going on fumes here at least for the first segment.
Oh,
then I
wow.
can run down the hall.
Look at you.
I know, I'm powering through.
Remember when Edwin Jackson threw like 150
Yeah,
pitches?
that's me today.
That's you today.
That's me
Yeah.
on a dreary, rainy Monday morning. I think that we can. Well, let's start with the negatives. Let's get those out of the way, even though it's preseason football, right? I mean, how many negatives can you truly harp on and feel like they're going to continue into the regular season? I mean, I think for the most part, the first drive by the ones, I wasn't disappointed with at all. I think the only negative to that was that Hollywood Brown got hurt on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
And that's just unusual circumstances, right? He gets landed, on top of. It was just like the Tyreek Hill play back in 2019 with Jalen Ramsey, funny enough, Jacksonville Jaguars. But I think you can anticipate him, correct me if I'm wrong, fellas, but I feel like you can anticipate him to miss maybe a game or two to begin the season. And that is really, really unfortunate because that's when you have Baltimore, that's when you have Cincinnati. And we still expect Rashee Rice to be there until we hear otherwise. But if he's not, your number one becomes Xavier Worthy for those first two games.
Or Rashee Rice.
That's what I'm saying. If he's not there, like if something comes down, there's a suspension, right? We're not expecting it at this point. But if there is one, if something drastically changes, that's who you're down to as your number one. Because at this point, it doesn't feel like Hollywood's going to be there if that's what the AC joint sprain?
This was a sternoclavicle joint dislocation. So a sternoclavical joint dislocation is what Hollywood Brown has. The same thing as Tyreek Hill. Tyreek missed 4 games, right? Tyreek Hill missed 4 games. Everyone's body heals differently. Yeah. Obviously, Tyreek Hill is a little more cut. I don't know if that helps or hurts. I don't know. but he missed 4 games in 2019. Andy Reid said, quote, "I think he'll miss some time. We'll see where it's at. I mean, I said that they're kind of going through it now, and we'll know more later on," end quote. Again, we'll hear more from the Chiefs today, probably around the 11 o'clock hour. So we'll see if there's any update on Hollywood. I'd have to imagine there is, but that's where we're at so far.
Yeah, and I think that's what, just punched everybody in the gut to begin the game. Like, it was a great pass, back foot pass to Hollywood Brown. You think, well, let's get used to that because we're going to be seeing a lot of that this year. And then, lo and behold, he's over there on the sideline, down on his knees, holding his shoulder. And my mind went to the worst-case scenario because obviously you're going to do that when there's an injury. I thought collarbone for a second. And, you talk about a collarbone, that is many more games missed than the whatever phrase that was. I'm not going to try to sternoclavicle dislocation. We'll call it that. I thought it was an AC joint sprain, but that to me was the most negative aspect of the game, more so than the special teams blunders, more so than some of the drop passes. I thought in that first drive, Kingsley Suamataia had a lot of good reps in that. I think there was a lot of openings. Isaiah Pacheco had a great run early on in that. And the drive stalled because Patrick Mahomes got put under a little pressure on third down. But I thought, again, Suamataia held his block. And then it was a lower throw to Rashee Rice. But I think in 9 out of 10 scenarios, 8 out of 10 scenarios, he catches that ball. He may not pick it up. I think that was where he had the mistake was he tried to catch it and keep going, where maybe if he just focused on, I'm going to get the ball here, get the first down, we'll keep moving. I thought it was a really good drive, but you do lose Hollywood Brown. It does only result in 3 points. And then after that, you saw the backups in there. It was kind of sad that Carson Wentz had a great throw on his first chance to really showcase himself from the Chiefs and then was awful the rest of the way. Just absolutely awful. Special teams was, in my opinion, the disaster. But how much of that can you take away? Truly, I mean, how much can you take away from the third quarter or the fourth quarter of a preseason game? I liked watching Oladokin, too. I mean, I've liked in the last 2 years. I mean, Shane Buechele kind of stole the show a couple of the years. I like watching him play, even if it's only going to be in the preseason. And then also Carson Steele. I mean, MVP, I would say, for game number 1.
Peyton Hillis 2.0.
Yeah, some got the long locks and everything.
Some are calling him Peyton Hillis 2.0. Some are. Some are. And that some might be me. I don't take a ton away. I'm not going to try and be the guy that overanalyzes every single snap. I'm not going to overanalyze every single preseason game because, let's be real, a lot of it's very vanilla. Even special team stuff. What was Dave Tobe? We can get to that in a second, actually. But, how much is Dave Tobe giving away on some of these returns? Defensively, is Spagnuolo really sitting there going, we're going to try and game plan against the Jaguars? No, they're going out there and trying to say, you work on your stuff. And, for example, Jaden Hicks looked really good.
He did.
Right? But, they're not sitting here going matchup for matchup, how are we going to slow down Trevor Lawrence? No, they're just working on their own stuff. And also, to put into perspective, the Chiefs are a team that don't do these scrimmages against other teams, these joint practices. So this is really their first look against a completely different team besides themselves. So this was their first look against not Chris Jones, against Creed Humphrey, of not Trent McDuffie against Hollywood Brown. This is their first look at an opposing team. And so, again, they're not giving a lot away. They're not scheming for them. They're just trying to focus on themselves. I don't take a lot away from this. We've seen, what was it? What era? Todd Haley era. Probably do pretty well in preseason football. And what did that result in? And we've seen sometimes in the Andy Reid era, the preseason not necessarily culminate in what we think the team ends up being. And they hoist the Lombardi at the end of the season. So I don't take a lot from this. I think it's a lot of times you can do yourself more good than bad in the preseason. Like Carson Steele, this was a good performance for him. This helps him try and make the back end of the roster. And even guys like Kingsley Suamataia. Yeah, but it was 6 snaps.
Yeah.
How much do we take away from 6 snaps? Wanya Morrison's 6 snaps looked good, or he could look horrible. Now, I will point out the backup offensive line in this one didn't particularly look very good.
I think the fact that they took Kingsley out with the starters tells a lot more than the 6 snaps, in my opinion.
Let's go there then. Yeah, because I think you're right. When Kingsley came out after 6 snaps, That tells me
He's your starting left
he's
tackle.
your starting left tackle. Are we all in agreement there?
I think at this point it is, yeah.
Because that's the only thing I could take away from that.
If they needed to see more, they would have left him out there. He was
Agreed.
going up against Josh Allen Hines.
Yeah.
And Josh
Way
Allen
to
Hines
remember
was,
the last name.
trust
Way to
me.
remember the
That threw me for a
hyphenate.
loop.
Yeah.
It did throw me for a loop, but yes, because it threw me for a loop is why I remembered it. So I don't want to take too much credit, but yeah, he was out there longer than Kingsley was.
And then Xavier Worthy, 5 snaps. What does that tell you? They're good with Xavier. They're good at. He is one of your top 3 guys. That's what that tells me. Like, we all assumed that, right? Mm-hmm. But you never know in an Andy Reid system with a rookie wide receiver.
Yeah.
I was expecting to see him get 15, 20 snaps just for the sake of let's see what he does against an opposing team. I wonder how much it changed when Hollywood went down. It was, hey, now we for sure can't lose 2 guys, or if that even played a factor at all.
I think it had to have played a little bit of a factor just because of that exact point. That was the first play of the game. And Hollywood Brown goes down, not with, a bruise or something like that, or he got a cramp or something. I mean, that's something that's going to keep him out for a little bit of time. So, after that first drive, maybe they were expecting the ones to go 2 drives. I know Andy Reid said the first quarter. We all know that's never been the case. It's usually been a drive or whenever he feels satisfied with how the number ones looked. And I now look toward Saturday for preseason game number 2. I really don't want to see the starters in that game. I don't want to see any of them out there for even a snap. I mean, we've seen so many teams so far in the preseason just roll with the number 2s. Don't even put your number 1s out there. I get that's usually because that's a strategy for preseason game number 1. We don't really need to see anything this far out from the start of the regular season. Then the closer you get, preseason game number 2, preseason game number 3, you start to ramp things up a little bit. But I think they like what they have in Suamataia. I think the injuries to Wanye Morris in camp kind of took him out of the running. And since Suamataia has only grown since giving that competition, I think he's the answer. For Xavier Worthy, not that he was ever going to lose a roster spot or to be a number 2, but I think he's in that category of, hey, we're going to expect a lot of snaps from you this season, a lot of production. We don't need to see 10, 15, 20 snaps from you. We needed to see 10 to 15 to 20 snaps from Justin Ross, who I thought looked really good in a handful of the times he was targeted. I thought Nico Remigio, with the exception of that weird play where he was wide open, went down, got back up, had the ball ripped from him. I'm glad that was overturned because I'm going, man, Nico Remigio is going to be the guy that gets targeted for that. But he had 3 catches for, I think, 35. 35, yeah, 3 for 35. Thought he did what he was supposed to do. So those are the guys you wanted to see a little bit more of the production from. But I'll be honest, I mean, was anybody else feeling a little bit excited about the one catch that Justin Ross had? And we had this conversation, Sterling, about we're not falling for it.
Justin Ross. We'll go to Justin.
I just look at him and I look at some of the options, the number 5s and the number 6s.
Yeah.
Can any of the number 5s or number 6s do that? I know it's preseason.
But
Don't be making good points over there, Jack.
I'm just saying.
No. I don't disagree, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm out on Justin. But my point is always, and now it's going to change with Hollywood Brown, okay? So stuff might change.
Yeah.
But prior to Hollywood Brown going down, my thought process is always he brings something different to the table as a wide receiver 5 or 6. But how often is your wide receiver 5 or 6 actually getting in offensively to make an impact? Typically, wide receiver 5 or 6 is making his biggest impact on special teams. Does Justin Ross play much special teams? Occasionally, but not much. That's not his role. So who's bringing you the best value to the back end of your roster? A guy who can occasionally make a great play.
Yeah.
Occasionally. I'm not taking anything away. That was a phenomenal play. Or a guy who's consistently making an impact every single game, albeit not one that you see all the time, maybe not one that as a fan we notice all the time, but impact plays every single game. That's what it comes down to me.
I think that's
Like
a very
who?
fair point. Are you meaning more like Sky or Tony?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have either Sky. Well, I think I actually kept Sky on the original
Kept
53
Sky,
because,
but not Tony.
Is Justin Ross going to do any kick returns? Is he going to do any punt returns? No. Is Nico Remigio? For me, it's more or less Nico Remigio. He's the guy that I'm more or less trying to get this argument with. And even to an extent, McCole Hardman, who we can get to later on with his debacle, which I don't 100% blame him. I slightly do. But also, the whole new rule change, it's a little difficult. It's different. I understand. I'm glad it happened now and not in week 1, right? But McCole Hardman can at least play some special teams. Justin Ross isn't doing that. And that's why I think it's more of an uphill battle. And the other point I want to make here is when the Chiefs drafted Jared Wiley, that to me was almost now your red zone threat. That's now you have Travis Kelce and Jared Wiley at the same time on the field, right? That's your red zone threat. Those are your big body guys. It's not a wide receiver. You don't see WR in front of his name, but I think they'll use Jared Wiley in that role. The same way they used Jody Fortson in that role.
Yeah.
So that almost to me leaves Justin Ross on the outside looking in. No, there's no wide receiver that has the same skill set, but there might just be a tight end that has the same skill set.
And I think, too, that, as excited as I can be, as many people who watch that play could be, we also have to factor in, A, he did this last year. B, it's against number 3s and number 4s out there. Still, he's doing what he needs to do when those are the reps he's given.
He's making it hard.
In the third quarter. I think where I'm at, though, is I believe Nico Remigio makes the team because of the special teams impact. He can return kicks. I think that's where they're going to have him. And then Xavier Worthy's going to return punts. I think in terms of a wide receiver, I look at Tony, I look at Sky Moore, I look at Justin Ross, kind of in this one, bag or this package, whatever you want to call it.
Sure.
And I do believe if Xavier Worthy and Remigio are your picks, that kind of takes away the value of Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney special teams wise because we know they'd be returning punts, they'd be returning kicks. So then I would turn to, well, what can you give me as a number 5? And I believe that when you already have Hollywood and you have Worthy, you have the smaller statured, quick, fast guys, do you really need a third or a fourth in Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney? I mean, keep in mind, Nico Remigio is one of those smaller-bodied wide receivers. So I think I would like a little bit different of a look. And I've kind of just been on the train for a while now where I feel like I've seen what I've needed to see from Sky Moore. I don't know if I'm going to go into, what is this now, year 3?
Yeah.
Of saying, well, he's going to turn things on. I think I'm ready to pivot, and a lot of it is going to come down to game number 2, game number 3. Let it be open competition between Tony, Moore, and Ross, assuming they're all healthy. But I just feel like there is something more to that game, where even if he is a number 5, if there was that scenario late in the game, and it's 3rd and 11, and you're going 5 wide, and you want guys out there to be the impact players, that may even mean, right, that he doesn't get the ball. But it at least gives you, I think, a better threat to get open, to win a one-on-one, to go over the top of a defense than Sky Moore really can give you at this point. I mean, I thought Sky Moore was going to be the excellent route runner, the slot receiver, the guy that had great hands. He's not dropping anything. Quite the opposite. Can't really get open, can't really catch the ball. Now, Justin Ross will have to do that in a meaningful game.
Well, and that's... Again, I always get enamored by Justin Ross.
We all do.
we if he makes the roster, that means good things are happening. That means he earned it, in my opinion. He does bring something different to the table, and I won't have any qualms if he does make the roster. How often does Mahomes throw up those 50-50 balls?
Yeah, unless it's Kelce.
Probably not. We always see it in preseason with Justin Ross, but is it Mahomes throwing those passes, or is it Oladokin? Is it Ian Book? Is it Carson Wentz? Last year it would have been Michelle. That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. I like Justin Ross. Like I like the skill set he can bring. It is different. It is unique. The Chiefs just don't value their wide receivers or use their wide receivers that way.
Yeah.
I can think of like one 50-50 ball to a wide receiver in the past couple years that Mahomes threw that wasn't necessarily Tyreek Hill. It was MVS against the Bills.
Yeah.
It didn't work, obviously. I was at the game. That was MVS's fault.
I mean, one of the 50-50 ball, the one-on-one, I mean, it was that Eagles game. I mean, he was open, but he did drop it, so it didn't work out. I do see your point as well. I almost think, though, of that game, the over-the-top, the acrobatic play that he had, that was impressive. Almost what was more impressive to me, though, was right after that, they go right back to him. He had that sideline, I think it was like a 7 or 8 yard catch right after the going over the top, the mossing somebody. That, to me, is what I would love to see more of, because along with the point of going over the top of a cornerback, making some incredible catch, that's all athleticism. We all know how impressive that is, but it also means you didn't get much separation, right?
Sure.
That just becomes a pure test of athleticism. Are you more athletic than the cornerback that's on you? To me, how Justin Ross makes this roster is if he has a lot of those second catch plays where he can get that separation, be wide open, have the good footwork, have the good hands. Because as you said, how many times does Justin Ross come into a game this year if he makes the roster and Mahomes goes, I'm just going to give him a one-on-one ball?
Yeah.
He's going to have to catch the ball by getting open, by having those great routes, by having the good separation. And that's why I think I love the second play almost as much as the first one. Of course, I'm going to love the first play because it's what got on the highlight reel.
It's electric.
It's an electric catch, and we've seen him do that a handful of times. But to me, if he can get that separation, have the footwork, have the hands, then all right, you can make a case because we all know he's more athletic than Justin Watson. We know that he is more of a gift-given wide receiver than Sky Moore, probably than Kadarius Toney. But that's all just showcasing in the preseason, where the preseason is going to be different than the regular season, right? McCole Hardman has that gaff on special teams. It was more so of just humorous. It's like, well, that was just dumb.
Yeah.
That happens in the regular season. There's going to be some mean things said on social media, on X, on Twitter, about what they should do with McCole Hardman in his roster spot.
Dylan, what would you have said on X if this was a week one and McCole Hardman did that? I want a verbatim quote from you, Dylan.
I don't know. I don't think I would have been that upset. I would have been more upset at the officiating and the lack of,
Clarity.
Because that's really who should be at fault is that, not really McCole.
Well, you can't fair catch, which we knew, right?
Sure.
But he also should have been down to 1, right? Am I wrong in that statement? Like, I feel like it was...
Sure.
Like...
You can also fault McCole because we prided ourselves on who was the guy that's our analytics guy that had the overtime rules beat into the head.
Yeah, because the Chiefs aren't San Francisco.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we can't be, praising all that and then, excusing McCole and the team for not knowing the rules of the new kickoff rule.
Yeah.
Special teams as a whole.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's a good way. It's the weather outside right now.
It is.
It's the weather outside. Parker Washington, 73-yarder. Tank Bigsby, 45-yarder.
We weren't the only team, by the way. If you watch all the other preseason games, there was a ton more this weekend than the Hall of Fame game and even the first couple of last week.
Oh, yeah.
Where there were massive, massive returns. And
the Chiefs had 2 solid ones, Nico for 31 and Montrell Washington, who, again, always a good returner for 32. What do you guys make of the new rules now that we've seen it in person? Obviously, there's some growing pains, as we saw with McCole. There's going to be that, right? There's going to be first few weeks. I'm not going to be surprised if you see that around the NFL. Hopefully not with the Chiefs because they hopefully got theirs out of the way. Hopefully that's the one that goes, all right, so now you guys see. Now you see you can't do that anymore.
And they're not going to be showing anything either. They're not going to be pulling out anything of the bag of tricks.
But that's almost my point is they didn't show much, and there still was a 73, a 45, a 32, and a 31-yard return.
Yeah.
They didn't show much. Are we undervalued? I don't think we have, Dylan, we were talking with Matt Derrick about this, but, are we still almost undervaluing the impact of the kickoffs this upcoming season?
We might be. I do think this gives a big upper hand to the return team. I think it really does because what gave the kickoff team so much of an advantage is that they got to run full speed. They got to have a head start, and everybody on kick return had to run backwards and then try to block somebody running full speed at them. Now, there's an even playing field, and maybe you look at that as just it's more fair, right? It should be 50-50. It should be even on both sides, but it is not going to shock me in the slightest if the first 5 weeks of the season, not just the Chiefs, but a lot of teams in the NFL struggle with this because what I saw in preseason game number 1 was just the ability of the kick return team to hold their blocks, the kick returner to have a full head of steam, and then be able to slip through a couple of the holes that were given to him. So I do think that league-wide there is going to be some big-time growing pains with it. I don't know if the Chiefs were just not as prepared. They weren't showing a lot. I don't really know because it feels like, for the most part, Dave Toub has that team or that side of the team, that unit, really buttoned up. We've known that for a while. I don't count a muff punt as Dave Toub's fault because that's the player.
Sure, yeah.
Right? Or McCole Hardman, making that play, having that gaff. It's not Dave Tobe. That's McCole Hardman. Now, the first kick return in the game for the Jaguars, when they went 73 yards, that would, by definition, in the regular season, be Dave Tobe's fault because they're not in position. If there's a missed tackle or two, that's on the player. If it's more schematic, that's on Dave Tobe. But there were too many times in this game that were just ugly. Really, really ugly from the special teams unit. And I don't know if that's because majority were backups in there. If they weren't as familiar with the rules, you got to be buttoned up and have that ironed out by even, I think, preseason game number 1, because there's only 2 more weeks to go. You only get 2 more tune-up games before it's the real deal opening night against the Baltimore Ravens, and you can't be having performances like that against a team like that.
Well, and again, you're right, Dylan. I looked around, just looking up in the NFL. So many players and so many teams had a 35, a 40-yard, a 50-yard return.
Tennessee had back-to-back.
Yeah.
Like San Francisco kicked it off. They kicked a couple field goals, and both returns on kickoffs, Tennessee took it to past the 50.
Well, and part of, I don't want to say even concern, but something to note. The Chiefs are not a team that typically forces a lot of turnovers. Their defense is, I don't want to say bend but don't break, but a lot of their defense, Travarius Ward to L'Jarius Sneed to Trent McDuffie, they're not a team that's focused on turning the other team over. They're not going to gamble and get a lot of interceptions. It's not Deron Bland and Trayvon Diggs, right? They're almost the opposite. They're like, we're going to play sticky defense. We're going to be on you. If you make a great play, you make a great play, but we're not going to gamble. I've said that's a schematic thing for a while now, and I just wonder how that changes. If teams are consistently getting good field position, do you have to be more aggressive? Do you have to say, hey, we got to try and turn the team over because they're getting all these 45-yard returns, or the Chiefs better set up because, hey, we don't gamble, so there's going to be less big plays given up? I'm just intrigued to see the dynamic of how this plays out, because if you're going to get at least, let's just say every team is probably going to get 2, let's just say 2 times they'll probably start on the, 40? On the 40?
40 or 45.
Does that seem pretty fair?
Midfield.
Right? How does that affect the Chiefs, who are a little bit of a less gambling defense, less turnover, I don't want to say turnover-prone defense, but again, a different stylistic defense than some other teams in the NFL. I want to see how this affects them. Better or worse? We'll take a break, come back, more Zone next. Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson. We'll be joined by Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour, Max Reaper of Royals Review at noon. We'll hear from the Chiefs in the 11 o'clock hour, scheduled right now for 11:30, which means probably 11:15. We'll find out, but the 11 o'clock hour will be Chiefs talk, which means, Jack, we got a nice little window here. We'll talk Royals. All right, so we talk Chiefs. We'll talk more Chiefs, but give us a little nice 20 minutes of Royals talk with Jack and myself and Dylan, of course. So does that work for you? We're going to switch a little gears
Always.
here. Okay.
Always.
Okay. All right. So they split against the Cardinals. Huge. After blowing the first game on Friday night, the bullpen just was atrocious. No matter who Q went to, it was absolutely brutal. Let's start there. Again, it's gloomy outside, so we'll start with the gloomy day first. What did you take away from the debacle that was Friday night?
Well, it's been a reoccurring thing this year that, you hold a 1-2 run lead late, and, if you're not throwing Lucas Ursig out there, you are crossing your fingers, and you are hoping for the best. And what is unfortunate about this bullpen, and, I will say this, there's not a lot of teams out there that have a Lucas Ursig type where when he comes into the game, you just know that it's going to be a scoreless frame. And since coming over to Kansas City, he's done exactly that. What is painful is that there's not one other guy out there that you just hand the ball to and you feel really, really good about. There have been spurts of guys that you feel good about. There was a time in April where John Schreiber was nails. Anytime he climbed the bump, you knew that he was going to throw strikes, induce soft contact, and keep the lead intact. There was a time, believe me or not, if you can remember that far back, James MacArthur was trusted.
Yeah.
Remember when Will Smith was blowing games in the ninth, and then James MacArthur got a few? It was, man, that's our guy, right? White Horse. You had play on nicknames for him. He had a big breaking curveball that was kind of starting to get notoriety with it, but he's since lost that. Serpa, Will Smith, they've had their moments this season. Even guys like Nick Anderson before he was DFA'd had moments. Hunter Harvey never really had that moment. Now he's on the injured list. Hopefully he comes back and is much better than what he's looked like in a Royals uniform. But to me, go ahead.
I was going to say, just very quickly on Hunter Harvey.
Yeah.
Do we think that's a legit right? Because there had to be something. Or he went from being a really good reliever to just a gas can.
Yeah. I think that it was something real. I don't think it was a phantom IL stint, just because I believe that with bullpen arms, you really got to collapse and crumble. And he's given up runs in a handful of his outings, but a lot of them he's danced out of danger. And the last time he was on the mound was in Detroit, and he danced out of danger with it. At least I believe that was the case. I think it was the Detroit series in which he kind of, maneuvered around things in the ninth inning. But that, what was that, Friday night game? That Friday night game against St. Louis, I jumped the gun a little bit too. I said, I kind of wanted to put it on Matt Quatrero of, what sort of bullpen management is this? Why are you going to these guys in that spot? But in reality, it was lining up nicely, right? That you had Sam Long go the extra inning. I have no issue with Sam Long going that extra 3 outs there. He gave up a run. I like Sam Long in that spot. Then he goes to Will Smith. I for one, thought Will Smith deserved a high leverage spot because of how he'd thrown since April. I'm not going to Serpa in that spot. You could make the case that Chris Bubich was the guy to go there, but guess what? Matt Quatrero said Chris Bubich was lining up to pitch in the ninth to get the save opportunity.
Yeah.
So they were saving Chris Bubich for the ninth, which is what everybody's wanted when you can't go to Lucas Ursig. So Ursig goes the seventh inning, not the eighth inning. Will Smith was the eighth inning.
Yeah.
It doesn't go his way. He goes to Chris Stratton, and we all go, why Chris Stratton, right? I went, why Chris Stratton?
Oh, I did too. I was screaming, get Chris Stratton off this team.
But Sterling, in the heat of the moment, the passion of the game, we kind of forget that Chris Stratton did his job. He got an out, and they got a double play ball, and Michael Garcia booted it a little bit. That one bobble allowed Tommy Pham to beat out the ball. If Michael Garcia, as damn good as he is, gets that, throws it to Massey, they get him in plenty of time. Therefore, scoreless inning, Chris Bubich for the ninth. Let's see how it goes. And then we find out post-game, Hunter Harvey couldn't throw. That's probably Hunter Harvey's spot or John Schreiber's spot. It had to come down to Chris Stratton because he was the last quote-unquote high-leverage right-hander because he's thrown in high-leverage spots this season.
Sure.
So that's where I even in the moment was going, what is this bullpen? It makes no sense. There's no excuses to go to Will Smith and Chris Stratton in that spot. I would have maybe liked to see Lucas Erceg for the 8th inning. But I
was
think
that when Scott hit the double? Was that off of? Or was that off of? Zerpa?
That was off Stratton.
Yeah, that was off.
Now,
Stratton. Come on, you can't. You can talk all you want about double play. You can't give up that to a guy who was batting
108.
Yeah, he's now at 115 after that. So
yeah, I get that part of it. Like there's no excuses to give up a hit to that guy in that spot. But that bobble by Garcia, and I'm a huge Garcia supporter, that cost them the extra at bat. What I can't get on board with, and what does frustrate me a little bit, is that Chris Bubich was supposed to go the 9th.
Yeah.
And it was still a one-run game. I'm still going to Chris Bubich because you have that off day on Sunday, and I'm just nowhere close to the Angel Serpa support group right now because he can't be throwing in spots like that. I don't care.
What happened to him? I know you and I have talked about the underlying numbers a lot, even when he was going well, right? We talked a lot about that. Velocity seemingly is still there, right? It's not like the velocity has taken some drastic dip, at least from I could tell.
Yeah.
What is, again, was this always just waiting for the other shoe to fall? Because Zerpa has turned into a pumpkin right now.
Yeah, and I remember that we discussed this back in, I want to say May or something like that, with the underlying data of Angel Serpa. I love the fact that we have seen an uptick in velocity, that he can now sit 97, 98, 99 with a sinker.
Yeah.
I think he's got a good slider. He's a two-pitch guy. I mean, we can sit here and say he throw a little bit of a changeup, but it's sinker slider. That is his combination, and he throws it from the left side. Like, that is a dream scenario to have for a guy you are crafting in the bullpen. Like 97 to 99 from the left side, and it's a sinker. It's not a fastball, right? I heard a couple people comparing it to Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez throws a fastball, right? That's a straight fastball at 98 to 101. Serpa can give you that sinking action to it. The problem is he lives way too much in the zone for stuff like that. Like, you just can't feed 98 down the middle. I don't care if it's a fastball or a sinker to a big league hitter. And that's what he's done now in back-to-back outings. Or when he has struggled, it is just living in the middle of the zone. And I get trying to pound the zone, and maybe he feels like if I'm throwing 97 and 99, even if I miss in the zone, it's hard to hit that. Right now, it's not. And when we pulled up that underlying data months ago, there was not a lot that supported Angel Serpa's success to continue, to have that longevity. And now I think we're starting to see it. That unfortunately, you can't throw him in a one-run game. You know, you might need to reevaluate what he can bring you. And I almost think that the best spot for him is where he was at last year, and that's a little bit of long relief. Like, I think you have to completely transition to Sam Long and Chris Bubich being your inherited runners, guys, where you're throwing Michael Wacha, you're throwing Singer tonight, and it's, 2 outs in the 6th inning. Here comes Max Kepler. I'm not going to Serpa. I'm going to Bubich. I'm going to Will Smith. I'm going to Sam Long. Just a lefty-lefty matchup. I'm done with Serpa in those spots because he's imploded. And even its 2 outings, those were big implosions in both of them because it wasn't, I can't find the zone. It was, I'm throwing 98 down the middle, and it's getting crushed. I mean, nobody had soft contact on Angel Serpa either in the Boston game or in the St. Louis game.
He's in the first percentile in average exit velocity.
Checks out.
That's not the good percentile. That's the absolute worst possible. Hard hit percentage this year, 4th percentile. Chase percentage, 1st percentile. Whiff percentage, 1st percentile. Zerpa, you got to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate to give up on a guy that's one of the youngest pitchers on the team, one of the youngest players.
When I mean got to go, you got to get
I see
AAA
out of that.
or a long relief. And again, there's no one in the minors.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm also to blame here. I think we all are. We get so antsy. We're like, well, just send him down.
Yeah.
Well, then who the hell's getting sent up?
That's a great point, too. And I think the only arm that makes sense is Evan Sisk. They acquired him in the Michael A. Taylor trade a few years back. A lefty who, by the way, when they acquired him, great numbers in AAA. Great numbers in AAA this year. ERA is under 2. He's striking out more than 10 guys per 9. He's walking around 4 guys per 9. Like, we all like that, but I also look at the Walter Pennington situation and go, they never once looked to him and said, we got to try him out instead of somebody at the big league level. And right now, I'm sorry to say it, there's just not going to be a giant switcheroo with the bullpen. Like, if a guy's struggling, it's pretty simple. They're just going to lose their high leverage spots. Like, James MacArthur lost his closing role. And how many times have we seen James MacArthur pitch since losing the closing role? The Detroit game, unfortunately, had to happen.
Yeah.
That was Hunter Harvey's fault. Don't really want to blame Chris Bubich too much because of the ghost runner. But it got to James MacArthur because 2 guys couldn't get the final out.
I agreed. That was Harvey's.
It was Harvey's game.
Yeah,
it was
Harvey's
his
game.
blow up. And that's why with MacArthur, like, he came in the Serpa inning and I think struck out back-to-back guys. Like, he came in a spot where the game's already been blown. Like, that to me is his role. It wouldn't shock me now if that's Angel Serpa's role of, all right, it's 5-1 in the 9th inning. We would like to keep things close, but we still believe in you. You're just not going to be in that spot anymore where you have a chance to blow that game. The issue is, Sterling, there is one guy right now that you can confidently say is there to protect the lead and you feel good about it.
Yeah.
The other guys, I feel good-ish. I feel good when Sam Long's rolling. I feel good when Chris Bubich is rolling. Will Smith hasn't pitched in a high leverage spot many times since April. And when he has, the Dodgers series, the St. Louis series, he coughed up that run. Chris Bubich, love him. He's never done this before, and now he's being thrust into that spot. They really just need that one guy. And I'm sorry to say it has to be Hunter Harvey. It has to be Hunter Harvey when he comes back, or John Schreiber when he comes back, to be the bridge get, because that can allow them to hold Lucas Erceg off until the final 2 innings and still having to use him as a fireman in the 6th or the 7th inning.
Yeah. Well, let's talk positive when we come back, because the Royals did split and they won 8-3 over the Cardinals in a game that I think kind of how you draw it up. So we'll take a break, talk about that on the other side. The Zone rolls on. Welcome back to the Zone. And now it's time to be positive, baby. Time to be positive. Royals split. And that game Saturday was pretty much how you draw it up. Bobby Witt Jr. going 2 for 4, also a walk, 3 RBIs. Salvador Perez hits an absolute bomb. Michael Wacha against his former team, 7 innings, 2 runs. Sustainable. You love that. Chris Bubich comes in, doesn't look good, but then you have Lucas Ursig to close it out. Inning and a third, gets it done. That was how this team is going to win against good teams late in the season. Your starting pitcher is going to have to go probably 7 innings.
Yep.
Find a bridge to Ursig. Bobby Witt and Salvador Perez do their thing. That's a win. Like, this is how you draw it up, I think. If you're going to try and tell me how did the Royals win the rest, I'm not saying they have to score 8 runs, but let's just say it's 5. This is how you get it done. This is how the Royals are going to win and sneak their way into the playoffs.
Well, the good thing is, Sterling, as we are speaking this morning, I mean, they have a bigger lead in the wild card than they did last Monday. For all the pressure they had with Boston coming in, it was down to half a game, already back up to 3 games. So that's kind of been the beauties. Every time things get tense, they find a way to push that lead a little bit further down the road. But yeah, that is the perfect way to mount a comeback if you're the Royals. Your starter has a quality start. You keep things close. Eventually, that offense is going to break through, as they've done all season long, and Saturday was no different.
Yeah, they now have a 2.5-game lead over Seattle.
Yeah, Boston's now the second team trailing the Royals.
The Red Sox
don't know how to phrase that.
Red Sox have now lost 4 straight. Seattle has won 4 straight. Royals a half game back of the Twins for the second wild card spot, and we can talk about that because they have a chance.
They do.
Twins up next. Take a break. Come back. The Zone rolls on. Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back to the Zone. Sports Radio 810 at WHB. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, Jack Johnson, no Jason Anderson. He'll be back tomorrow. So for everyone wondering where he's at, he's back tomorrow. Okay? Tomorrow. But tonight, Royals take on the Twins. And this is a massive series. They trail the Twins by a half game for the second wild card spot. Twins playing some pretty good ball right now. The Twins send out their quote-unquote ace, who's having a bad year, Pablo Lopez. Got a 4.74 ERA. He struggled. Strikeout numbers still really good. And on any given day, Pablo can go out and have himself a, 7-inning, no-one-run game. But this year's been a little different. Brady Singer on the bump for KC, 8-7, 3.03 ERA. It's kind of funny. You're used to seeing those backwards. You probably used to seeing Brady with a 4.74, not Pablo. What do you take of? Let's just start with tonight first before we get into the overarching. What do you start with tonight?
Well, it has been a down year for Pablo Lopez, although he always seems to have the Royals' number, and I think it is going to be a big test, both for the Royals' offense against Pablo, but also Brady Singer's numbers at Target Field. If you are into this type of information or you just choose to not acknowledge it, Brady Singer's not been very good at Target Field before. I think he's been very good against the Twins in general, but I think specifically at Target Field he's really struggled in his career because back when he was, in his down years, not so much this year, he struggled to keep the ball in the yard, and that was something Minnesota excelled at, especially early into Brady's career. So this tonight feels like a very advantageous matchup for Minnesota, even though Pablo Lopez has struggled. But I think there's also a little bit to that yes, Pablo Lopez has been good against the Royals, but also acknowledge the fact that he's not been very good this year. He has had those outings in which he looks good through 2 innings, and then things spiral in the 3rd or the 4th. And the Royals saw him on opening day. I think back then we all would have thought Pablo Lopez is still a dark horse or in the running for the American League Cy Young, but that's just not the case anymore. And this Twins team, I do believe it's a bad matchup for the Royals, as much as you can say that in baseball. I've always believed that the Royals are a better matchup against Cleveland than they are Minnesota, just because when you look at this year, the Twins have had the Royals' number. They won the series in the opening series of the year. Then when the Royals went to Minnesota over, I think it was Memorial Day, the Royals weren't good. Their starting pitching struggled in that series. Seth Lugo got the only win for the Royals in that, and I think you look at bullpen, I think you look at power in the lineup or pure raw power in the lineup, you give that edge to Minnesota. But I think the funny thing about this, but also the beauty of it, with the Royals playing meaningful baseball on August 12th, I want to say this is the biggest series of the year, but the biggest series of the year was last week against Boston. Right, it's just every series at this point.
Series, yeah.
The Cardinal series felt huge because it's the I-70 series and it's 35,000 at Kauffman Stadium. But we all knew it's a National League team. It's not the biggest series of the year. But it's like you'll have Minnesota here, and then if you find a way to take that series or just avoid being swept and you're still there in the hunt, well, you'll see Minnesota here in a couple of weeks, and then you'll see Cleveland, and you'll see Houston, and I guarantee you all of those series will be dubbed as the biggest of the year. To me, at this point in the season, with 40 to 45 games to go, every series is the biggest series of the year because the Royals just can't afford to have that slip up. Like what Cleveland's having now, or before they won back-to-back games, lose 7 in a row. Royals can't have that at this point in the season. They can't even really afford a 4-game losing streak like Boston's on right now. They have to stay the course, play 500 ball. Sterling, they play 500 ball the rest of the way. They're going to be in October.
Yeah.
They're going to be able to tread water long enough to hold off those teams that are surging.
Royals in October. Goosebumps.
Yep.
3 games in Minnesota, Monday today, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday off. A lot of off days, so hopefully bullpen should be not good, but rested
Fully
down
rested.
the stretch along with the starters as well. Singer tonight, Lugo tomorrow, Reagan's on Wednesday. So it lines up well for Kansas City, obviously, with their 3 best pitchers of the year going in these 3 games. What do the Royals need to do? Is 1 and 2 good enough? Obviously, that's not ideal, right? It's in Minnesota.
Yeah.
1 and 2. Now you'd be a game and a half back of that second wild card spot. I don't know if you want to play for 1 and 2, but it's one of those situations where it's like that keeps you afloat.
Yeah.
That keeps you in contention. 2 and 1's obviously a great situation. Sweep, ideal. But I think if the Royals went 1 and 2, if we're being realistic, I wouldn't have a whole bunch of qualms.
Yeah. I do think in this series that where they are in the wild card race, you have to remain pretty even-keeled with it. I don't think you need to look at this series as desperation mode. And to me, desperation mode is, at bare minimum, they have to take 2 of 3. I think that's the goal. The goal is to just win a series. It's always the goal. But to me, the bare minimum, like what you just have to make sure you don't do, is get swept. You get swept by Minnesota, that not only puts you at jeopardy of getting that second spot in the wild card or second place in the American League Central, but it puts you at danger now of being out of a playoff spot, depending on what Seattle does, depending on what Boston does. And the AL West is a little bit of a unique situation right now. Like every other week, it's changing with the Astros being the division leader, then Seattle. I think in the end, the Astros are going to win that division, and Seattle's a team that the Royals are going to have to worry about catching them, along with Boston. But to me, if they can just, at bare minimum, take 1, and then Boston struggles and Seattle struggles, they're going to be fine. They're going to survive that, and they'll take on a Cincinnati team on the road this weekend, and then they'll host a really bad Angels team. So they'll have a little bit of an opportunity to breathe.
Don't say that. Last time we said the Royals have an easier stretch. What happened?
Exactly. I mean, I would like to say the Angels are the exception to that, or one of those teams is the exception, but it's baseball. Anything weird can happen. But to me, with this Minnesota series, what I think it's more so going to be a test of is who really is the second best team in the Central. Like, I think at this point, when it's August 12th, this series will wrap up on Wednesday, so August 14th. Like, you get to that off day on August 15th, and if you've won 2 of 3, you've leapfrogged Minnesota.
Yeah.
And there would be a lot of aspects to what you did in that series to point toward, hey, maybe in the end, this is the second best team in the Central, and this is a team that has a better shot to catch Cleveland than Minnesota. I mean, I would have thought on Friday, after the Twins swept their doubleheader against Cleveland, I go, all right, well, this is it. This is where the Twins surpass the Cleveland Guardians. But every time Cleveland has the knife to their throat and they're about to relinquish everything, they find a way to keep that lead intact, and they win the final 2 games of that series. So
call an ambulance.
Yeah.
But not for me.
Not for Cleveland. But this will be a huge test for them, mainly because Minnesota, for the last handful of years, that has been the big bad bully, in my opinion,
yes,
to the Royals. The Twins, they beat up on the Royals, and the Royals have the guys they want on the bump. With I probably would take Walker over Singer in a spot,
sure,
but Singer's no slouch. I mean, you
Yeah.
got Singer tonight, Lugo tomorrow, Reagan's on Wednesday. I would like to say you take 2 of 3 there, but I got to be realistic. If the Cards can just fall their way with the other teams and how they perform, I'm not going to come in screaming and crying on Thursday if they only took 1 from Minnesota.
Yeah. I'll keep you to that, because if you do come in screaming and crying, I'll say, well, it's not because the Royals. Something else
has gone
happened with you. Royce Lewis, obviously, being back with Minnesota has been a huge boost for them. It feels like Max Kepler just always has the Royals' numbers.
Yep.
Eddie Rosario, when he was there, used to be just so fresh. I'm with you. The Twins are seemingly that team. I don't have that same anger towards the White Sox. I don't have the anger towards Detroit. I don't have the anger even towards Cleveland. It's Minnesota. And they're so nice. Like, they're so close to Canada. Such nice people.
Yeah.
Sorry, Seth Kaiser. Don't mean to be mean to you, but, Minnesota, you're going down. What do you make of MJ Melendez starting to turn it around, right? He's now over the Mario Mendoza line, 203.
Yeah.
He's at 203. You saw Kyle Isabel, who was struggling, get 3 hits, go 3 for 4 against the Cardinals, right? The last game on Saturday. That's big for him because he was mired in a huge slump. That's good for him.
Yep.
Hunter Renfroe's now in a pretty big slump of his own. He's kind of reverted back a little bit. But let's start with those 3 guys, with MJ, Renfroe, and
Kyle Isbell?
Kyle Isbell,
Yep.
the outfielder right there. What do you make of those 3?
Well, the good thing about MJ Melendez is that this feels very, very similar to what he did last year. The good thing is now these games matter, right? These games matter to the meaning of playoffs. It's not mattering just to the individual player, right? I think last year, I don't want to call a major league game meaningless, but for the fan interest, for the baseball interest in the Royals, those games didn't matter. The Royals were one of the worst teams in baseball, and MJ was hitting really well, though Bobby Witt Jr. was stealing the show. Kind of the same thing this year. That in the second half, Bobby Witt Jr. is hitting 790 against everybody else. And so some of these guys that have been on hot stretches have been overlooked. Vinny's hot stretch was overlooked because of how good Bobby was. And MJ Melendez, the best thing about this is that he had time off. He got hurt. He sprained his ankle, and you would have thought maybe in that moment, man, he was playing well. He was rolling offensively. He was finally starting to show that confidence that he has. And when he comes back from the ankle sprain, there was maybe, I think, a 3 or 4 game stretch in which he was struggling to get things going. But now you feel good with him at the plate. And I always think there's a direct correlation to when you see somebody start to take off. There's a direct correlation to their approach and how they're hitting the ball. And for MJ, when he was struggling, he's swinging it at everything. I mean, they just peppered the upper part of the zone. He couldn't catch up to it because his swing is kind of that, bat path of starting low to high. So if you throw it a high and in, he's basically trying to hit it on the upswing. And if he did, it was a pop-up. Now you're seeing him spit on those pitches. He's working the count. I thought in the back of my mind for a second, would it hurt to try MJ at the leadoff spot?
Dog, I had the same thought.
A handful of times, but also I look at it in the same way I did with Freddie Fermin. It's if he's hitting well where he's at, don't mess with it. Don't mess with it. You are fortunate enough to have them hitting well right now. And for MJ, he's got that power and strength that if a ball is out of the zone, kind of like Salvi, where he can guide it where he wants to. I thought in that Boston series, his 2-run double to make it 6-5, that's not a strike. He swung one-handed and ripped one into the gap. So that's a good part of his game when he's hitting well. When he's not hitting well, he's missing that pitch. He is not even close to coming to hit that pitch. But now just to look up there on the scoreboard, it's kind of a cliche thing in baseball. But he gets to look up at the scoreboard tonight at Target Field. If he's playing, I'm assuming against a righty, he will be in the lineup tonight. He will see his batting average over 200. He will see it at 203. You can breathe a little bit easier when you're not seeing 140 or 150, and you know that everybody out there is saying, get this guy down to Omaha. He's not going to be good enough. He's just the same old MJ Melendez. Well, the same old MJ Melendez plays like this in the second half, and that's when they needed him most. And this can carry into September and into the final days of the season. The Royals are going to have a really good X factor on their hands of a guy that even off the bench can run into a field.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. We're going to switch gears, talk a little Chiefs. Obviously, the Chiefs will be speaking a little later on in this hour. The Zone comes up next. Sports Radio 810 WHB. Welcome back to the Zone, Sports Radio 810 WHB. The PFF Chiefs grades for the preseason game are now out. Dylan, have you seen these? He's not. He's shaking his head no. This is an audio medium. Is audio. All right, let's have some fun with this. You want to have some fun with Dylan, Jack? Because I know you saw him already.
I'm ready.
Yeah. Who do you think the number one ranked PFF Chiefs player was? Minimum 10 snaps.
Justin Ross.
He was number 2. Yeah, I know. Silver medal.
Carson Steele.
Shockingly, no. It's a good guess, though.
Man.
It's a great guess.
This always amazes me about those grades. Like,
Is it a lineman on either side? That's the one hint I want to know.
A
Okay,
lineman
all
on
right.
either. There's 2 in the top 5 on either side.
Is it Kingsley?
He only played 6 snaps.
Oh, you're right. 10 minimum.
1 starter, 1 backup.
No idea.
Turk Wharton,
Okay.
Matt Dickerson.
Yeah, I would never have.
Yeah, Matt Dickerson would have been a
No
wild
shot.
card to me.
yep.
Justin Ross, 2nd. Tershawn Wharton, 1. Chris Oladokin, 3. Miles Battle, 4. Matt Dickerson, 5. And I only use PFF if it helps my cause, and
true.
I will not believe it if it hurts my cause. So take that as you will. Carson Steele, by the way, only played 9 snaps, so that could have been a factor as well.
Damn, did a lot with those 9 snaps.
Looks like Andy, Xavier Worthy, and Carson Steele were the folks talking today. I'm excited for those 3. That's a good 3.
It really is.
Sure, Andy's going to be thrilled, too. Can't wait.
Carson Steele feels like that guy that is almost immediately going to have everybody fall in love with. He's just going to be the fan favorite. I mean, you brought up the pet alligator story right with him. He's got long hair. He's a fullback. He can run over people. He's already started to get into that fan favorite territory by what he did in preseason game number 1. I mean, everything about him feels like he has that likability aspect to him. And the Chiefs didn't have a fullback last year. So you were longing for a fullback presence. You didn't have Burton anymore. You didn't have Sherman anymore. Now you have a guy that can carry on the name, the legacy of a fullback in Andy Reid's offense. And what a performance in game 1. He was my MVP. Not even close.
I don't even think, though, that he constitutes just a fullback.
That's true. He's a hybrid.
He's a hybrid. He's like Tony Richardson or Mike Alston. Like, I'm not saying he's those guys, but I'm saying
He was in game 1.
that might be he 4 carries, 29 yards, and a tutty, baby. But like that long run he had, he gets hit in the backfield, like full on, almost wrapped up, and he's like, "Little boy, get off me!" And then he's like, he gets drilled by 2 more guys, and he's like, you're my nephew. I'm just gonna throw you to the side. It's just insane. Justin Ross, the play was over at one point, because he's like, "Oh, well, I see him down." All of a sudden, he's like, "Oh, I got to block some more." Like Carson Steele, angry run from Carson Steele.
I think too. What's more so exciting about this from a regular season standpoint, from an offense standpoint. Remember how many times the Chiefs struggled on 3rd and short or 4th and short last year, and you had to get creative by passing the ball in those scenarios because we know they're not going to QB sneak it anymore. That's never going to be a play again in the Patrick Mahomes playbook. The QB sneak's not there. But if you have a fullback like this, who's not just a guy who's going to run straight, right, run straight up the middle, go into the teeth of the defense and try to fall forward, I think there is an element to his game that can really help the Chiefs in spots like that. Because he's good, I think, catching passes out of the backfield. I think you use him in the screen game a little bit.
Sure.
And also, if he gets 10, 15 yards down the field, he can carry a defender or 2. It's not like you just see so many fullbacks when they get 5 or 6 yards into the play, it's like, okay, they're eventually going down. They're not shifty enough to make guys miss. I think he is.
I will also point out, it wasn't like he met Fred Warner in the hole. No, that wasn't Nick Bolton or Roquan Smith.
We'll find out soon enough.
We're talking back. Yeah, we will. We're talking backups, but still, it was an impressive run, and I do think there's more. And this is why I only have 6 wide receivers. Like if it came down to Justin Ross or Carson Steele, I would go Carson Steele because I think that just the value he brings on a game by game basis, not the occasional highlight, but the more play-by-play or game-by-game versatility. I also think special teams, Carson Steele could be an impact player. I think he might be a guy you could even rock occasionally on third down. Like if you know if it's an obvious passing down situation, especially early on in the season, playoff time, it's Isaiah Pacheco's show. We know this, right? Playoff time, Isaiah Pacheco is getting the lion's share of all the carries. But early into the year in the regular season, you want to try and keep a guy who's been injured already in his young career like Pacheco fresh. Steele can do that. I think he has the size to be a good player in pass protection. Like he's a guy who I could trust with Mahomes. When you're 6'1", 2, whatever the bleep he is, a huge guy, I trust that. That's the bodyguard. That's the Mahomes bodyguard on third and long. I think Carson Steele, after this game, I know it's one game. I know I told myself I wouldn't have a whole bunch of I don't want to take too much from one preseason game. But right now, Carson Steele did the most to help himself. I think Justin Ross did as well. I think LRZ didn't do much. Louis Rees-Zammit, it feels more like a fun story, a good time, but now really feels like a long shot.
I wouldn't even call it a long shot. I'd almost give it no chance at all. I want to say, by the way, how impressive it is that he's doing this at the highest level for a sport he's never played. Right? We can try to draw, a comparison between rugby and football. There are similarities to some aspect, but this is going to take a little bit of time. I think the Chiefs brought him in as a project, not as a wow, get ready for this guy. He's going to be a sleeper fantasy pickup that is just adding 500, 600 yards to this Chiefs offense as a number 2, number 3 running back. He's a hybrid. He can catch passes. He can line up in the slot, and he can, run the ball on third and short. I think in the limited role that we saw him, the limited snaps that he got, there was nothing about his game that went, wow, you got to find a spot for him. In the same way we feel that about Carson Steele, about Justin Ross maybe from time to time, or Nico Remigio of, you got to find a spot for this guy. I think, honestly, if he didn't make the roster, I think he's safe on the practice squad, unless somebody just wanted to take him and do this project themselves. But I do believe that this is going to be more than just a training camp experience. I think this is going to be a project that carries into the season. You hope that, after a full year of practicing against real NFL players, he could maybe be an impact guy next year. But right now, I've kind of already written him off as somebody that could make a huge contribution, and that's totally fine. It would have been absurd for him to come over from a sport that he's played his whole life to a sport he's never played, and let alone a 2-time defending Super Bowl champion team. Let's get that out of the way. If this was Carolina, maybe he makes the roster. I don't know. I don't know how they develop him, but I still think there's a chance for him to grow into this game, and it's just not going to happen at the snap of a finger.
No, the more and more we've seen, it feels like he would be a relatively safe practice squad guy. I don't know how many teams are trying to take a chance on a guy who's never played football before. Maybe we got a little too excited about the athleticism. I will say he's only 23.
Very young.
So he's still pretty young. Some Sky Moore news that I thought was interesting. So when Hollywood Brown went down, Sky Moore went in. Sky Moore went in above Justin Ross and the like, right? So Sky Moore was kind of the next man up, if you will. But he didn't earn a single target in 14 snaps. 14 snaps, 0 targets. 16 other players did get at least 1 target. Now, part was Mahomes, part was Carson Wentz. But this is what we saw a lot last year of he's on the field a lot. But unlike a cornerback or an offensive lineman where you never want to hear their name called, you never heard Sky Moore's name called, and that's not good for a wide receiver typically. This is seemingly the same damn thing we saw last year. He's on the field a good amount, and he's either not getting open or the quarterback is just not looking his way. And by the way, didn't log a single special team snap. So almost the same way, Justin Ross actually logged a couple of special team snaps. Sky Moore 0. Just something to keep in mind here.
I do think that's his biggest flaw to his game. He can't get open, right? And I think, to me, that's more problematic than if you can't catch the ball. I know both of those things are terrible qualities to have as a wide receiver because you should be able to get open. You should be able to catch passes. We see so many great ones do it around the NFL. And guys like Sky Moore just, I think, have the biggest flaw of what the Chiefs have from their number 5 and number 6 and number 7 guys. If you can't get open, there's not even a chance for you to make a play, right? With Kadarius Toney, I always believed that I would take Kadarius Toney over Sky Moore because Kadarius Toney could get the separation early on in the year. He could get open. Couldn't catch many passes, but eventually you play the odds, you play the probability, he's going to catch one of those, right? If you're Sky Moore and you get 14 snaps, maybe they're against starters, maybe they're not, and you can't get one target, it's one thing, too, if he's wide open on 6 or 7 of them and a backup quarterback's not seeing him, but I don't see it being that case because this was what we saw last year. If you can't get that separation, and as good of a quarterback Patrick Mahomes is, he's not going to try that. He's not going to try to thread the needle to get the ball to Sky Moore. He'll try to thread the needle to get it to Kelsey or to Rashee Rice or to Hollywood Brown or Xavier Worthy, maybe if he builds that trust. But for Sky Moore, if you have 14 snaps in the preseason and you don't get one target against guys that are probably backups, that's just knocking you down further and further on the totem pole.
We'll take a break, come back, more Zone next. Welcome back to the Zone. A large man snuck up on us, and that large man is Andy Reid. Here is Andy.
Hollywood, they were able to get the joint back into place without surgery, which is a positive. And then we'll just see on the recovery. He's back in Kansas City now. He stayed over in Jacksonville till they got that thing situated. Clyde was sick today. Hayek, still, about his shoulder. Nothing's changed there. Chris Jones, shoulder. Both those guys are making progress. McCade had a tear in the MCL. It wasn't the ACL, so that's a positive. No surgery required. We'll just see how he does here in the next few days, how that thing works out. It might be longer than that, but we'll see. Wanye had a bone bruise on his knee. Those are pretty painful things, but he's working through that. Other than that, everybody worked today in some form or another, and we'll just see how they did. whether it was the Boltons, the Reeds, we'll just see how they made out through this. But as far as the game goes, there were some good things. There's plenty that we can work on. The ones were fairly productive there for the short time that they had. We're on top of the kickoff. In the rule, it's a little different than last year. So the ball normally goes in the end zone. It's a dead ball, and that's not how it is this year. Goes in, comes back out. You can't scoop it back in, obviously. Again, they're still looking at all of this. So we'll see where it goes from here. I think it was good for the officials to see it. I think it was good for us to see it. We understood the part of it where if it goes in, it's still alive. But again, that is similar to the sideline where you can be outside and reach back in. That part got clarified. It's not like that. So that's a live ball. So that's where we're at. Other than that, it's open to you guys here. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, 34 should have taken it and gone, and then McCole was trying to make it right, but what McCole should have done was picked it up and gone. But listen, that's not his. That's our responsibility for making sure that's clarified.
We didn't see Brian Cook out there. Did he walk out later, or what's his status?
Yes, he was not there. Personal matters. Baby on the way. Right. So, yeah.
Andy, when you look back and watch the film, what did you see from Kingsley? And I know.
Yeah, no. Listen, I thought he did a nice job in there. His feet, his sets were good. He was aggressive. I thought for the short time that he was in, he did a nice job. It was a good start for him. So we'll, he's got to obviously build on it the more time he gets and so on. But I thought it was a very productive start.
You guys have a deep wide receiver room. Are you sensing some urgency from Kadarius Toney, just knowing that it's very competitive at the back end there?
Say the
wide receiver from Kadarius Toney, just knowing that it's competitive back end.
Yeah, I mean he was out here today working, and it's just consistency. It's just a matter that, and with the competition, and that I tell all of them that. So there's a ton of competition, and you got to be on your game with that. So.
What does that do to your passing game without Hollywood as long as he's not around?
Yeah. So the positive there, Adam, is that he's going to be back, and but without him in there, his experience and that in the league, and but we've also got other guys that can step in and play. We'll be okay there. It's just we're pulling for him to get back, obviously.
Is it reasonable to think he could play against Baltimore?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Coach, did you miss not having a fullback last year? And when you look at number 42, when you look at Steele, does he look like a guy who could be a fullback and a running back?
Yeah, well, you saw what he was as a running back, and then he's learning the fullback spot as needed. We used Noah there last year, who can still do that, but he's got to be a good special teams player. If he's going to make the team, he's got to be a good special teams player, and he's got to be able to carry the football and stay aggressive like he's doing right now. But he had a productive day.
Did you miss having a fullback last year? Did it hamper you in the red zone some, you think?
No, I don't think so. We adapted, and I thought Noah gave us some good snaps in there.
Andy, it was his first football game ever, but just when you rewatch the tape, just what jumped out to you about Louis Rezaman and where the improvement can go from game 1 to game 2?
Yeah, no, listen, it was exciting for him to have a chance to get in there and play. It's faster than what he's seen in practice. So I think from an experience standpoint, it was great for him. I think that was a positive, and then just build on it. So.
Okay, thanks, Coach.
All right, good. Thanks.
So no surgery for Hollywood Brown, according to Andy Reid. They got the joint back into place. As far as today, no CEH. He was sick. CJ, 95. Chris Jones has a shoulder, and he is progressing. And we have Xavier Worthy up now.
was a good experience. It was fun. Just being able to get that experience. Say it was my first game in the field. It was cool. It was fun.
You've been communicating with Hollywood, I guess.
Yeah, I checked on him after the game, see if he was all right and stuff like that. Obviously, he's a key to our offense, so just getting him back would be huge.
How are his spirits right now?
I think he's in pretty good spirits. He's just looking to come back and get back ready to work.
The first play of the game was called for you. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what happened there?
So they rolled to cover one hole, so it kind of took away my play. Kind of upset about that one, but it happens.
Jim, we've seen some work with you in the backfield of reverses, go section, that type of thing. How eager are you to maybe get some of those looks at again?
It's huge. Obviously, in college, I kind of had like the freedom to get the ball anywhere on the field, reverses, bubbles, deep passes, intermediate. So just being able to have that here, just get the ball in my hands, I feel like I'll be a threat with the ball in my hands.
Are you itching to be part of the punt return?
Oh man, I wanted one so bad the other day. I'm mad. They kind of just took me off, shut me down for the day. But yeah, I'm ready to get my first punt return going.
Were you sort of battling to stay in the game on Saturday?
I wanted one of those punt returns for sure, definitely. But they took us out off the field. I'm like, dang, I can't get a punt return. So I mean, it was messed up, but I understand.
What's your communication with Dave Tobe been like in regards to potentially returning this year?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be back there returning. They have us watching a lot of Devin Hester. You know, he just entered the Hall of Fame, so you know, coached him. So it was amazing just to be able to have a coach to coach him and understand the tools it takes to be great back there.
Heard your name in a song lyric before practice started. Tell us about that. How'd that come about?
I really couldn't tell you how it came about. I know of the guy that did it, but I didn't even know he was gonna make a song about it.
Did you notice it today at practice?
Yeah.
When did you first hear it?
I heard it before the game the other day, and I was like, oh, shoot, that's cool.
As fast as you are, did anything about the speed of the game surprise you? Did it feel different than you thought it might, or feel just as you thought it was?
Coming into the league, you know, it's different speeds at all levels. High school has their own speed, college has their own speed. Obviously, in the field, everybody's smarter, they move, it's just better. So just me knowing that, I kind of just, if I feel like I have more plays, I'll be able to like get a rhythm going into the game. But I feel like I adapted to the game speed pretty well.
Did it seem to move faster around you than you thought it would, or not really?
First play, a little bit, kind of like, you know, first play jitters. But then after I started getting in, get a little more feel to it, it kind of started slowing down for me.
Does your mindset change with not having Hollywood here and his status for week one kind of up in the air right now?
No, my mindset is to be the best, regardless. Hollywood's definitely one of the leaders. He shows me a lot, teaches me a lot, but I feel like him just being there regardless is going to help me a lot. But my mindset is just to be the best regardless.
What do you miss with him in the lineup?
You miss the aspects of two speed threats on the field. Obviously, we got Travis, Rasheed, but yeah, just him being on the field with me, all of us, it'll be a huge threat. Just waiting to get back.
With now having 16 training camp practices, just what do you feel like you've learned most about yourself, and what's been the toughest challenge to get through this camp?
The toughest challenge for the camp, I feel like just the playbook. I feel like I got really adapted to it. I've been in the playbook really all day, all night, understanding like the little bits, the formations, the motions, understanding what everybody else has, just so I could, what if I'm in that position? So just understanding all that, I feel like that really helped me in this training camp.
Learn about yourself, just first time going through this experience?
I feel like I learned about myself. I feel like I just feel like I could do it. You know, when you come in the league, you have that. Everybody has a little bit of doubt, like, oh, am I going to be good enough? So I feel like I kind of showed myself that I'm good enough and I'm meant to be here.
Well, that was fun news there. First play of the game was for Xavier Worthy, but it was taken away. It said he wanted his first punt return. He said he knew his come out of the game, but he's like, man, you can't leave me in for at least one punt return? Jaden Hicks up next.
I'll say the atmosphere, even though it was a preseason game, you know, the crowd was still pretty live. But yeah, I'll say the atmosphere.
Are you happy with your performance, Jaden? Just the first time being out there?
I would say I'm content with it. There's some plays that I could have made still plays to be out there. But yeah, overall, I think did all right.
It's just been your comfort as you grow into special teams role and learning multiple positions on defense, but also trying to make an impact on specials.
Yeah, I mean, just running down there, using my abilities, but with the new kickoff rule, that's a bit of an adjustment with close spacing and stuff like that. But learning all the roles and plays on the defense, that's going pretty smooth so far. So I'm just looking to keep learning from that and, yeah, keep going from here.
How comfortable has Justin Reed been behind the scenes, and how good is it to actually see him get to do something today?
He's been amazing so far, coaching me up, learning what he's learning. He's showing me how to see plays and attack blocks, stuff like that. So he's been such a helpful guy in the room. So
I'm sure he's just looking forward to getting back out there today.
Yeah. Yep, put the helmet on today. So
What could you have done differently on that penalty?
On that penalty, I would just say just aim lower. I try to jump up to tip the ball, but I got pushed a little bit by the guard at the end of the play. So
You mentioned a couple of plays that you were thinking about. What was your takeaway from reviewing your performance and watching it, or things that you want to work on, and where you go from here?
Things I need to work on, I would just say, overall, I would just say, yeah, keep playing hard through the whistle. Some plays I was getting a little tired, but I mean, playing all special teams and stuff like that at the end of the day, but yeah, just keep going straight through the whistle.
Have you ever played somewhere hotter than that was Saturday night?
I would probably say that Wisconsin game when I was in college. Yeah, that was pretty hard.
What were you feeling like in the locker room in moments before you go out for your first NFL preseason game?
It was amazing seeing all the guys getting ready for the game, getting all the jitters out as well. But yeah, it was good atmosphere. I'm sorry?
Were you nervous?
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah, first game. Yep.
Jaden, were you asked to rush much in college?
Yeah. So my responsibility, I was all over doing whatever. So yeah, we were blitzing at the safety spot.
How do you feel like you are at that part of the game?
I feel like I can make plays there. So that's good that I'm able to do that in this defense. Thank you.
A little interesting there. Blitzed in college. It should be good for the NFL. So he did do that in college. Jaden Hicks said he was content with his performance. Said some plays could have been made. Carson Steele now.
It's awesome. Just being able to come out here every day and, play a sport you've been playing since a little kid. Now you get to do it as a job. It's awesome. And seeing all the little kids, kind of mentoring you, growing up, looking at it, it's really a true blessing. So.
How many friends, family, that type of thing reached out after your preseason performance?
The phone was blowing up a little bit after the family. Just after that game, everybody was so excited for me to be able to go out there. Like I was saying, first game, kind of have some success coming into it, and so they were all super excited for me.
What do you think would make you a good fit for that fullback role?
Honestly, that was kind of my main goal coming into camp. There's a little bit of talks here and there, and my main goal was trying to be like a Swiss Army knife, try to do it all type of deal, and wherever they need to put me in is where I can get in, and so. Like they were saying, implementing the fullback in there as well, being able to block, especially catch out of the backfield too, not only just being able to run.
Has anybody ever asked you before in your career, Carson, to play fullback?
No, because it really isn't, a super big thing, but, being that bigger back, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, I was more of a style of a fullback, but wasn't a true fullback, if that makes sense. And so, it kind of stuck to me, and it's really, helped me get through this camp as well.
What have you heard from the coaches since Saturday night's game?
Obviously, we didn't come out with a W, which that's the main goal for the team. But, we just got to keep getting better, keep working at it. Everybody's really excited to see, the outcome of this season. What everybody's wanting, everybody's fighting for. And, so we just got to attack the day and keep going at it.
Did you get any feedback on how you played?
Personally, I did a little bit. But, we're really on to the next game, and that's kind of how we go. I was excited, celebrated, that night a little bit, scoring the first touchdown. But after that, it was kind of go time for the next week.
How did you feel like you did on the special teams part of it?
I feel pretty good. You know, I was learning the new rules and stuff about the kickoff, so that's a little different to me. And I hadn't played special teams in a little while since like freshman, sophomore year of college. So it definitely was something new to me, and really got to learn from there.
As an undrafted guy, you can pick your team. What was attractive about Kansas City?
Just like I was saying, Coach Reed's had his fullbacks before. They didn't have one last year, and you know, talking with the coaches and stuff as I got picked up, that was kind of more of a kind of thing we talked about, being that coming in on packages, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2s, and being able to be a bigger guy and block, especially catching out of the backfield too as well.
Have you ever been a lead blocker? Have you ever played fullback any time in your career and had to be a lead blocker for a tailback?
I had blocked like lead back before. UCLA, we kind of did a 3-back thing where we were blocking short yardage stuff, but never like a true fullback I'd played before.
How many teams do you feel like were more interested in you as a fullback? Like, at what point did you start to think I need to think about playing fullback again?
That was kind of the big talks coming into training for the draft, especially just like I was saying before, being a bigger back. Teams talked about it a lot, but they also talked about me being running back too, so it's kind of a 50-50 toss-up.
You had a lot of nicknames in college. Have your teammates latched onto one yet?
There's been a few. The favorite one I would say is Crocodile, because my pet alligator. I would say that's probably the big one coming into it. So.
Yeah, you beat me to that. Can you?
Yeah, I spoiled the news. Yeah, I got him 2nd or 3rd grade probably. It's a Christmas present, and yeah, so I've had him a little while now, and he's probably around 4 or 5 feet.
How many pounds?
Crocodile or an alligator?
Alligator, yeah, but I named him Crocky J when I was younger because I thought it sounded a little better. So, but yeah, he's I would say probably 90 to 100 pounds. Yeah, he's in a big aquarium back home. So.
Few more.
They didn't let you bring him here?
I'm not for sure yet because you have to have a bunch of permits and stuff. I definitely couldn't have him out in LA. So.
Was there a moment things kind of clicked for you, maybe here at camp or maybe earlier than that?
For sure. I would just say, having the other running backs too really helping me out. Pacheco and all those other guys, Clyde, they were really helping me learn the plays and stuff like that. So that's definitely been one of my big things to be able to click throughout this camp and trying to stay with the big guys, roll with them and really learning all the plays and getting the full detail to it.
Carson, 2 quick questions for you. Just, did you have to change your body at all to get prepared for taking on a fullback role? And based on your running style, just where does that sort of come from?
Honestly, not too much. I was always a heavier back. I was around 225-ish last season. I'm probably around 230 now, so about 5 pounds. But, added that on through camp, training, stuff like that. And just like you were saying, it's another role I got to take, and really excited for it, to keep pushing through to kind of learn how to be able to block out of the backfield. And it's really helps my game to be able to do everything as well.
Is your running style, do you feel like it was geared for contact, for obviously, all the broken tackles you had on Saturday? Is that something that's sort of always been a part of your game?
Yeah, growing up, that's kind of, north and south was my big thing, straight up and down, being an older style running back, trying to push through everything, get those short yardage as well.
Who was your favorite back to look at growing up?
Favorite back, I would probably say LT, even though we had a little different style. I loved watching him. YouTube, that was my go-to for highlights before games, so LT was my favorite to go to.
Last one right here.
Just, can you take us through that first run you had and just kind of adrenaline you were experiencing during that run?
Yeah, for sure. Just like I was saying, all those people there, you got your family. I had family in Jacksonville too as well, so they're all there. Everybody's excited, first NFL run. I just kind of saw a little bit and then didn't, and then so I just had to put my head down and go, and that's kind of really, helped me keep pushing throughout that, that first series drive.
How much is that kind of your first reaction sometimes on runs to try and go over somebody instead of around?
Yeah, that's definitely kind of one of your first things because I love to, establish like a, hey, coming in, this is the first play, and, we're not here to mess around, so kind of get in there and try to just run through everybody and go for it and then go from there, so.
Justin Ross give you any flack for
He did a little bit, yeah. I kind of pushed him out of the way to keep on going, but he was blocking, kicking butt for it, so I'm not mad at it. But
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, take care.
Carson Steele, very, very enjoyable. Has had a alligator named Crocky J since 2nd or 3rd grade. Now that bad boy's 90 to 100 pounds. No wonder he can break so many tackles when you grow up with a pet alligator. You know how you get, you roughhouse with your dog? Good luck roughhousing with an alligator. We'll take a break. Is that what that thumbs up means? Okay. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about what we heard from the Chiefs. We'll be joined by Max Reaper as well at noon, talking Royals. after this. A couple of interesting things to get into, though, from Carson Steele, Jaden Hicks, Xavier Worthy, and, of course, Andy Reid. Andy Reid, again, saying with Hollywood Brown, got his joint back into place, no surgery, CEH sick, Chris Jones' shoulder progressing, Wanye Morris, bone bruise on his knee, working through that. And he also did not blame McCole Hardman on that, said 34, that's Deneric Prince, should have taken it and gone. Also, the new rule changes, going to take a little time. We'll take a break, come back, we join Max Reaper, Royals Talk, up next. Welcome back to the Zone. Sports Radio 810 WHB. Sterling Holmes, Dylan Michaels, no Jason Anderson. Joined now, Max Reaper of Royals Review. Max, how you doing, man?
Sterling, I'm doing great. I had my Boston-based brother-in-law in for the game on Wednesday against the Red Sox, and I just want to thank Bobby Witt Jr. for a very satisfying win over the Red Sox, and to have the Royals have a split but still take the season series from the Cardinals this weekend. Very satisfying week of Royals baseball.
Yeah. Gosh, I mean, Boston fans are like third worst. Okay, Yankees fans, they have the crown. Then it's Cardinals fans. They have the silver medal, but I think Boston fans, they're on the podium right there.
And also the fact that they're chasing us in the standings, just to put a little separation between us and them on Wednesday was kind of nice. And it was great atmosphere on Wednesday. Great weather. The crowd is not what I was expecting. I'm hoping Royals fans come out a little bit more. I know it's tough the year after you lose 106 games to have a lot of season ticket sales, but definitely come out and see the team because they put on a good show Wednesday night, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, again, of course, St. Louis, they packed the house, so that's a little bit unfair, but 34,000 and then nearly 37,000 sellout on Saturday. Again, better to see. But we talked about the previous biggest series that was facing Boston as we look ahead to the new biggest series since 2016 as the Kansas City Royals go to Minnesota. 3-game set up there. They are 4 games back from Cleveland, a half game behind Minnesota, but they are still up a good amount right now in the 3rd wild card spot. What do you take away or look forward to in this 3-game set?
Well, I just like, it's one game at a time, right? We got to take this one series at a time, but it's nice. Each of these series is such a big deal. But, yeah, the Twins, they're a really good team. They've obviously a team that's been in competitive for the last couple of years. They've got a really great offense, I think, now, especially with that. They have Royce Lewis back, the infielder. You may remember he got injured on opening day against the Royals, had missed some time, but he's come back, hit really well. Byron Buxton, of course, a 5-tool player. He's been healthier lately, and is hitting as well. But you look at the pitching matchups, and you got to really like the Royals' chances there. The Twins are without some of their Joe Ryan's now out with injury. Pablo Lopez is going the first game for them, but he hasn't been Pablo Lopez of the last few years. Whereas the Royals are going to put out Lugo, Reagans, and Singer, the 3 best pitchers. 2 of them are all-stars, and Singer arguably had is probably just in the periphery being an all-star this year with the season he's had. So you really have to like their pitching matchups there. And I think anytime you have the starting pitching the Royals have and an MVP player in Bobby Witt Jr., they're going to have a chance. And I know, the criticism on the Royals has been, they're just beating up on the White Sox and they're 500 against everyone else. Well, you can say the same thing about the Twins, right? I mean, they're 12-1 against the White Sox and 53-51 against everyone else. So this is kind of a good test for both teams, I think, to see how they stack up against fellow contenders. And, we'll see what happens, but certainly the Royals can play with the Twins. I know the Twins have had their number in past seasons, but this is kind of a new Royals team with good pitching and an MVP, and that's going to keep you in a lot of ball games.
When does Brady Singer start getting respect for what he's done this year? Because I feel like there's this fascinating phenomenon where it's like, it's still, it's Brady Singer. I'm like, he's got a 3.03 ERA. I'm not saying he's Seth Lugo or Cole Reagans, but Brady Singer's had a really nice year. I know against a couple of the bigger games of the year so far, he hasn't had his best stuff. I will completely concede that point, but I thought I was one of the hardest dudes on Brady Singer, and he has surpassed all of my expectations and then some. Like, I don't know if people still view him as the past couple years of Brady, but he's been phenomenal this year. I got to give the guy his due. It just feels like he's still being viewed as a, 4th or 5th starting pitcher when in reality he's been a legit 2 or 3 on any other rotation.
I am right there with you. I think that he's gotten a lot of flack for what he isn't instead of people appreciating what he is. And I know there's been a lot of criticism about, he doesn't throw a third pitch enough. He needs to develop a third pitch. Well, if you've got 2 pitches that are working really well, and look, you can throw different kinds of sliders. Like they're not going to all have the same kind of horizontal break on them. He has mixed in a four-seamer lately, which I think has been pretty effective as well. So, he may not have the changeup that you want, but let's instead praise what he is doing, because he's obviously doing something right, because he's among the league leaders in ERA. He's been every start he's giving you a chance to win. And I agree. He has had a very good season. We need to give him his due, and look at him as a very solid number 3 starting pitcher, which is better than what a lot of these other contenders are throwing out there. So I am right there with you in the Brady Singer Fan Appreciation Society. He's been really solid. He deserves his due. He's not going to necessarily give you 7 shutout innings every time, but he's worked his way out of some jams, and I think that's shown some maturity on his part, where last year, if things started to go wrong in an inning, that would kind of build upon itself and really, fall like like dominoes. Whereas this year, he's been able to escape some jams and really show some good, intestinal fortitude there on the mound. So I'm right there with you in appreciating what Brady Singer has given the Royals this season.
Max Reaper of Royals Review is our guest. MJ Melendez now 203 above the Mendoza line, really on a heater right now. But in reality, ever since he started playing in fewer games, right, it seems like the Royals are doing with MJ Melendez what Baltimore decided to do with Ryan O'Hearn, right? Like, I know it's kind of a silly comparison, and obviously Ryan O'Hearn's doing crazy things since he got to Baltimore, but it's because Baltimore also put him in the right spot to succeed. It feels like finally the Royals are like, okay, maybe MJ's not an everyday player. He can't go up against lefties. Let's maybe only play him, start him three days a week, maybe 4. You can use him as a pinch hitter, and all of a sudden MJ has turned it on. I don't know if you view him at all in the same regards as Ryan O'Hearn. I don't know how you view MJ, if this is just one of those, okay, finally he wasn't going to always bat 150. But MJ has really come up big in recent weeks. In the past couple, he's frankly been a pretty damn good ball player.
Yeah, it seems like his only hits come in like the most clutch situations, which, I'll take that. It's better than what he was doing before. And, look, some of it's he's reverting back to the mean, whereas, we knew he wasn't this bad. The talent was there. He was hitting the ball hard, and some of those balls are finding holes now, which is good. But I think you're right. I think they are kind of being a little more selective in when they play him. The Royals this year seem like they're a lot about matchups and putting guys in the best situation to succeed. And that doesn't always work. And sometimes that means Quatraro is making some kind of mystifying decisions because, we don't necessarily have the data they have or understand the reasoning for, why some guys are playing or why they're turning to some relievers. But I do think that what's driving a lot of those decisions is, what's the best matchup on this particular day? How does MJ fare? How will he fare against a tough lefty? Maybe we should sit him. And they're putting him in situations where they feel like he can succeed. And he's going to be really important down the stretch. I mean, they need some length in that lineup. The bottom of the order had a couple good games last week. Kyle Isbell has been a nice little spark plug for them. But they're going to need, MJ's bat and have him produce down the stretch, give him a guy that can get on base. I'd like to see him, drawing more walks like he did in the minor leagues a little bit. But certainly if they can get him going down the stretch, he's going to be a huge part of that offense and what they need to do to get stay in this race.
So if the Royals make the playoffs, who's the X factor or the reason why? Don't say Bobby Witt or Vinny or Salvi. Someone in a tier down. Someone, again, it could be an MJ Melendez, if you will, but who is a guy that you think would be the X factor if the Royals were to make the playoffs?
I kind of think it's got to be someone from the bullpen, right? I mean, Lucas Erceg is your solid reliever right now, and right now it's a bunch of question marks around him. So I'm looking at a guy like Hunter Harvey. I know he's on the injured list right now, but if he can come back and be a solid, 1B option to Erceg, that's going to be huge for this team going into postseason. Because look, in a short series, their rotation, I would put it up against anyone in baseball, right? You got Lugo, who's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. Reagan's been one of the best strikeout pitchers in baseball. Brady Singer, who we just talked about, is a very solid number 3. No team can put up 3 guys like that right now. And so what's going to be important is what do you do in the late innings? How do we protect these leads? And they've got 6-7 weeks here to try to figure out what the roles are going to be because they can't put Lucas out there every single time. So a guy like Hunter Harvey could be a big a big part of that going down the stretch. Or someone else. If we can get Will Smith, if he's back on track, which I know is a guy that throws 91 miles per hour, maybe is the one you want to rely on. But he's been pretty good for the last couple of months. So getting another bullpen arm, I think, is going to be really key for them in the postseason because obviously 9 years ago that's how they won a title, right? Having the best bullpen in baseball. Well, they're not going to have that, but having a good starting rotation is going to, I guess, make up for that lack of bullpen dominance. But they're going to need some solid bullpen arms to protect leads.
Would you consider, again, we're way ahead of ourselves right now. I mean, we are way out in front of our skis right here. But if the Royals were to make the playoffs, let's just say, 5-game series, shorter series, you roll with 3, would you consider going with Waka in the 3rd spot and then have Brady Singer go to the bullpen? Because the 2-pitch mix, you would imagine, could play a little up more so in the bullpen than potentially Michael Waka.
No, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, and people suggested Singer might be more effective as a reliever for years. So that would be a really interesting experiment to try, and maybe they even try that down the stretch. We'll have to see. But in a postseason series too, that allows you to use other guys as relievers. Alec Marsh, who's been in the rotation all season. I know he's been demoted, but I think the goal there is to maybe see if he can be a reliever down the stretch where maybe his fastball plays up a little bit. And he can avoid some of the walk and home run issues that he's had as a starter. So that gives you a lot more options. And then maybe a guy like Brady Singer becomes your kind of fireman that back in the 70s and 80s when Quisenberry used to come in for 2 or 3 innings or put out fires. And like I mentioned, Singer's been really good about getting out of jams this season. So absolutely, that could be a role for him where he's a guy that they rely on in the postseason to get out of tough jams and hand things over to Irsay.
Just to throw that out there for everyone listening, it sure looks like Alec Marsh has done well in the minors. He has pitched 3 games, started at 3 games, 10 innings, 14 strikeouts, and a 1.8 ERA. So they're kind of using him as a starter still, but in a smaller sample size, at least almost like an opener, if you will.
And you wonder, how if the bullpen has struggles, how quickly do they pull him back up here? Because they kind of need a guy like that, and he's got strikeout stuff. He's a guy that can miss bats, which this bullpen is sorely needing. So I think there's a lot of high upside for him as a reliever, and I'm really kind of eager to see him come back up to show what he can do out of the bullpen.
It's not like the Royals have a lot in the bullpen in the minors currently, which, Max, brings me to an article that you wrote. Max Reaper, make sure you go to RoyalsReview.com to check this out. And waiver claims still give Royals an opportunity to improve roster. Talk more about this.
Yeah, so obviously the trade deadline passed. And for older baseball fans, you may remember there used to be what's called waiver trades, which if a guy clears waivers, you can still work out a trade for that player. Well, that's a thing in the past. They put an end to that. However, last year we saw some teams, particularly the Angels, say, "Hey, we're way out of it. We're not going to compete this year. Let's put some guys on waivers that are have expensive salaries, and if someone claims them, we'll just let the new team have them, and they can pay his salary. That'll save us some money." And they weren't the only team that did. A few other teams did it as well. And so you saw guys like Lucas Giolito change hands. He went from the Angels to the Guardians last year. Hunter Renfroe, who is on the Royals now, he was let go and claimed by, I think, the Reds. So there's a possibility of that happening this year as well. So there could be some relievers who maybe make, higher salaries. Of course, you're only paying for one more month of them, but that's a way for another team to maybe save some money. And so I identified a few guys that might get let go at the end of the year. I don't know what the odds are that any of these actually, these players actually do get put on waivers, but a guy like Jose Leclerc of the Rangers, I think would be a prime candidate. He's a guy who was a big part of that Rangers bullpen a year ago when they won the title. He's had some struggles this year, but he can still miss bats. Certainly a guy with a good track record, making about $6.5 million this year. The Rangers are kind of falling out of it now. They may say, look, we'll put him on waivers, save $1 million over the month of September, and a team like the Royals could pick him up. The Royals would have waiver priority over every team that's in front of them in the standings, but teams that are chasing them, like the Mariners and Red Sox, would still get waiver priority before them. So, we'll have to see what kind of players get put on waivers. if the Royals can pick them up, they'd have to be on the roster by August 31st to be eligible for the postseason. But there's an interesting opportunity there for some other players on other organizations to maybe be picked up by the Royals to improve that bullpen. And right now, yeah, you're looking for kind of anything that works, right? I know it's not going to be great all-stars that are going to be put on the waiver wire, but there may be a chance for some guys that have a track record, guys like Hector Neris of the Cubs maybe. I think Chad Green, the Blue Jays, would be kind of interesting if they put him on waivers. He does have an expensive contract for next year, so I don't know if the Royals would be scared off by that, but there could be some opportunities to add some talent to the bullpen.
Yeah, that Chad Green contract is not great. $10.5 million salary for next year. That seems pretty steep for even the Royals. If you're trying to make a push, I get it. But that kind of hampers what you can do potentially next year. I think I might be out on Chad Green. As far as in the minors, I know I said it's not stocked with a lot of bullpen talent right there. We're talking about Alec Marsh. Any other names in the minors that you find interesting?
I think you look at the starters like Alec Marsh, who maybe are struggling a little bit, but could be better out of the pen. And I look at a guy like Daniel Lynch. I mean, he's a guy that's had some major league success, has certainly, it has shown flashes of brilliance. And if you put him in the bullpen, does his stuff play up a little bit better? Does that slider look a little bit better? Does his velocity increase? I mean, he could be another interesting candidate for the bullpen as well. Evan Sisk is a guy that's been doing pretty well in AAA as a lefty kind of specialist. Certainly, if you're looking, I know they're a little bit heavy left-handed right now, but I know Zerpa's struggling quite a bit. Yeah. Certainly wouldn't be crazy to demote him for a little bit just to get his head on straight. So maybe they swap them out. Evan Sisk, I don't believe is on the 40-man roster, so that might require some roster decisions there. And then, I said the trade deadline passed a few weeks ago. You can still trade for guys that are minor leaguers. So you can still trade for other guys in other organizations who have not been on the 40-man roster all season. So if the Royals do identify someone in the Rangers organization or the Pirates organization in AAA that's doing well and hasn't been on the 40-man roster this year, they can still engineer a trade where they trade a minor leaguer in our system for their minor leaguer and try him out at the major league level. So there's still opportunities to improve this pen. The problems the bullpen has had, I'd like for them to kind of try a lot of things out because they keep searching for answers with the same guys. And how many times do we have to see Chris Stratton nibble and walk guys before we kind of come to the realization he's maybe just not, he doesn't have it anymore. How many times do we see Hal Zerpa get blown up in an outing before we say, okay, he needs to go to the minors, something's wrong. So this is starting to get a lot more critical now that we have a 7-week sprint to the end of the season, and this team really every game matters. So they need to find some solutions. And I know, like you said, Chad Green, the contract doesn't look great, but desperate times call for desperate remedies, right? So we'll see what they have to do. We'll see what they try to kind of figure things out in the last couple of weeks of the season.
I feel bad, but for some reason, when Chris Stratton comes into the game, of all the relievers, he's the guy I want to see the least. Because he walks a lot of guys, doesn't get a lot of strikeouts. There's no pitch that you're like, okay, I could see him potentially wiggling out. Like, even MacArthur, you're like, at least the sinker has some movement. There's a curve. If I squint, I can understand why. Stratton, I'm like, no, he's going to get shelled by a dude batting 108 in the Cardinals lineup. Like, gosh. It's just
I feel like every time he comes in the game, it's immediately 2-0. The count is 2-0 already. It's like, what happened here?
It's like softball, where instead of starting with a 1-1 count, they're just like, no, it's a 2-0 count. 2-0 count for Stratton. Get Stratton off my team. I keep saying that. It's gonna stick. It's gonna stick at some point. All right, we'll have a fun little game here, Max. Right now, as we sit on August 12th with the current roster construction, who are the 3 bullpen arms? Because we rip on Q all the time, right? I love Q. I'm not saying me personally, but I think a lot of people rip on Q, sometimes for his bullpen management. My point I'm trying to make is there's not really many guys you can trust, not many guys you turn to and go, I feel comfortable that they're getting out of this and the lead is not blown. So right now, you have 3 guys. Pick your circle of trust, your 3 guys. Who would you go to?
Circle of trust this one. Well, it's got to be Urseg, number one. I mean, and I know a lot of fans would want him to pitch the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning of every game, and it's just you can't do that. You're going to wear him out by next week if you do that.
Okay. Well, hear me out. They did that in the 1900s. I think that we can still do that. Lucas Ursig, pretend it's 1904.
Yeah, and then with the batter calling for the pitch and guys are tossing it in there, sure. So I think he's got to be your number one solution. And I get that's what the Royals are doing, having him face the toughest hitters in the lineup no matter what inning it is. But the problem is you need someone else to kind of pitch the 8th and 9th. And then right now I probably put Sam Long in that situation. I think he's earned it. He's got some major league track record there. This isn't a total surprise, but it's been nice that he's come out and he's really pitched well, I think. And I would feel comfortable with him in a 9th inning lead at this point. And then a third option. I had a name, and it's escaping me right now. I don't know if there is a third option right now. Oh, Will Smith. Not that I trust him a lot, but you can look at his track record the last 3 months. His ERA is under 2. I think his opponent's average is under a 175. I'd want him to face just lefties, I think. But if you're in a tough situation against a lefty, I think I would feel pretty confident of him coming in the game. Certainly more than Zerpa or Stratton or some of the other guys they've thrown out there. So it is slim pickings, though. I mean, I agree with you about Quatraro. I disagree with some of the decisions he's making, but it's not like he has a lot of great options. I mean, what are you going to do if these guys just don't execute? At some point, we got to say it's on the relievers. They got to throw strikes. They got to get these hitters out. And like I said, that's why I think they need to find some solutions here before to stay in contention here.
Yeah, what it comes down to is Hunter Harvey has to come back from the injury and be the guy. He's got to be an 8th inning guy. He cannot be the same dude that was getting shelled since he's gotten to Kansas City. Because I'm with you. For me, it's Ursig 1, Sam Long 2, Chris Bubich would be my 3rd. I think Chris Bubich has done a nice job. The strikeout numbers are surprisingly fairly high. Even one of the ones where he gave up the run, not last time out, but I think it was the time before. It was the inherited run when he got the strikeout, the big strikeout right, and then he got a little knock into right field. I feel like that was just a good piece of hitting, not necessarily a bad pitch. I feel pretty comfortable with Chris Bubich. I'd like to see him do it more in more high-leverage situations, but he's probably my number 3, which, again, not saying a whole bunch. But in regards to Hunter Harvey, 1, do the Royals keep the receipt, and do you know the rules? Can the Royals say there's a 60-day money-back guarantee? Because I feel like that should be a rule. And then number 2, is it a real injury, a phantom injury? I guess I lied. There's 3 parts. Does he ever revert back to what he once was at the beginning of this season / what he was the past 2 seasons before he came to KC?
Yeah, I mean, if you remember back to when the Royals acquired him, he had had a rough couple weeks with the Nationals before they acquired him, and that's kind of the red flag a lot of people raise. He's got a great track record. He's been good the last 2 years, but this last month he's really had some struggles with the Nationals. Is this the best investment going forward? And I don't know, if he was having back issues back then. This could be a wholly different issue. But to come in and have, first of all, look really not very good. I mean, he's leaving his fastball up, and seemingly every outing he was coming in with the Royals when he first got acquired, and then to have this back injury, and I think it's real. I mean, I think the Royals would have, if he was available, they would have used him. What was that game last week where they were kind of
when Stratton came in against the Cardinals?
When Chris Stratton came in, I don't think they wanted to use Stratton in that outing, but Harvey was unavailable. So I think if he was available, they would have turned to him. So I do think it's legit, but. Man, you really need. I agree with you. He's such a key to this team going forward because you need a strikeout pitcher. And when he's on, I mean, his splitter looks great when it's on. I mean, I think it's close to an unhittable pitch. And he's got 97, 98 mile per hour fastball, so that's a good combo to have when you're locating well. But he just hasn't looked that good in a Royals uniform, and they're going to need him down the stretch. So hopefully this is a short stint on the injured list. Your back injuries are kind of tricky. Rest helps, but you don't know the extent of how much he's suffering and how much that back issue is going to be lingering down the stretch. Hopefully it's something that won't hamper him down in September, because the Royals are going to really need him. Like I said, there's not a lot of great options. Hopefully they get John Schreiber back, but he was struggling too before he went on the injured list. So They need that swing and miss out of the bullpen, and Harvey's going to be really key. So hopefully he's not out too long.
Just saying, I played through my softball game with a bad back and pitched through a gym out there, Max. So I don't know.
What's the difference? You're throwing 97, 98.
7 or 8, maybe. 7 or 8.
Yeah.
Max Reaper of Royals Review is our guest. 2 quick ones before I let you go. 1, what are expectations for the Royals now? Do you believe they make the playoffs? Where are you at here with it?
Oh, I think you have to expect the Royals to make the playoffs. They're sitting in the 3rd wild card spot at this point with a 2.5 game lead. It's kind of theirs to lose at this point, and it's a 7-week sprint now. I think Fangraphs had their playoff odds, and they project the Royals to actually have a losing record down the stretch from here on out, but still make the playoffs. So, we're dealing with kind of smaller sample sizes where the Royals don't necessarily even have to play great down the stretch, but because they've banked these wins, they've gotten off to such a great start. It's the Mariners and Red Sox that have to play well to chase them and catch them. So I think you should expect a playoff spot. Now they're going to have to keep it. They can't go into a spiral where they lose 5 in a row, 6 in a row, 10 out of 13. They have to play well, at least trade wins for losses. And this will be, like I said, this will be a good test. They got Minnesota, Cleveland coming up. They can, I don't think they have to win these series necessarily, but hang with these teams. It'd be nice to catch them. I'd love to catch the Twins and get in that 2nd wild card spot. But I think Royals fans should absolutely expect this team in the playoffs. I'm ready to buy my playoff tickets. I'm ready to be back in October baseball. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope fans turn out and watch this team down the stretch.
Well, now there's a wall, and I want to run through it. And number 2, finally, does Bobby Witt Jr. win MVP?
It seems like there's kind of a buzz, and I don't know, sometimes, Aaron Judge was kind of the overwhelming favorite a couple weeks ago, and I think people got tired of that narrative a little bit, and Bobby played so great, and he's such a fun, aesthetically pleasing player to watch. I think we prefer the speed power combination over the pure slugger, right? And the fact that he plays great defense, he's such a young, exciting player, and he's new, he's a novelty, he's fresh to the scene. I think it's going to help him a lot when it comes to narratives. And also it doesn't hurt that Aaron Judge has Juan Soto and the Yankees payroll around him, whereas Bobby Witt, he's got Salvi, he's got Vinny, but it's basically him putting the team on his back. And when you think of an MVP, that's what you think of, a guy willing his team into the playoffs after an 106 loss season. So I think there's going to be strong support for Bobby if he can close it out with another nice August and September. It doesn't have to be what he did in July, but certainly have a really strong finish to the year. I think it's going to be a very close race. I think if you look at wins above replacement, they're neck and neck. I think you got to make a very strong case for Bobby Witt, even with Aaron Judge having the fantastic season he's having. But I think Bobby Witt's going to be it's going to be one of the closer MVP races if they keep playing like this.
Co-MVPs. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. They're both 2 completely different players, 2 different styles. Like, I think if you take Bobby Witt Jr. off the Royals, they're clearly not in the playoffs. But what Aaron Judge has done has been nearly historic. What he's done at the plate is just ridiculous. They're just walking him now. They're like not even facing him. They're just saying it's almost the Barry Bonds treatment. It's pretty crazy, but he's just not good defensively. And he doesn't bring you any stolen bases. And so you're sitting here going, well, how do you view it? He's clearly the best hitter we have seen in 5. He's putting up a prime Pujols offensive season right now. This is almost Miguel Cabrera type Triple Crown if Bobby Witt Jr. wasn't playing type of season. But then you add the full picture, the best baseball player. One of the best baseball players, Bobby Witt. I just think I'm fine with a co-MVP, Max. I'm going to try and share this. Are you in with me?
Well, no, it's funny you mentioned the Miguel Cabrera Triple Crown season because it reminds me of that season where he won the Triple Crown, but it was Mike Trout who was probably the better overall player that year, doing in the field, stealing 50 bases, and Cabrera, I believe, won MVP that year. So, we'll see if the fans want to go with the slugger, and you mentioned Judge getting walked all the time. Does that hurt his chances if he's not able to get good pitches, to hit home runs? Certainly walking helps the team, but Bobby's a guy that can help the team on the field. He's helping them with his base running. So he's a guy that can kind of do it all. So we'll see. It's awesome that a Royals player is in the mix, and some people are really pushing for his MVP candidacy. So it's just awesome to watch, and I'm sure this won't be the first time or the last time that we see Bobby in the MVP hunt.
No, it will not. Max Reaper of Royals Review. Check out all of his great work at royalsreview.com. Max, Always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Sterling. Appreciate it.
We'll take a break. We'll come back. More Zone up next. joins us at 1 o'clock. Little learned, funniest, best. What'd you learn, Dylan? Oh, wait, don't say. Got about an hour. 45 minutes. I did learn something. The AP poll put out its first preseason top 25. So the coaches poll had already been out, right? We've already had the coaches poll. But now we have the first preseason AP top 25 of the college football season. You want to go ahead and just take a little, Yes. Yes, Dylan. You want to take a little guess on who's number one?
Georgia.
Shockingly, yes. Shockingly,
Pretty easy.
They are. Let me see if I can go to the full one here. Let me see, because I have the top 12. There we go. Yeah. Georgia, number one. Ohio State, number two. Oregon, number three. Texas, 4. Bama, 5. It's your top 5. Notre Dame, number 7. I'm surprised Notre Dame's that high. Guess where Mizzou's ranked? I'll give you a guess. All 3 local schools are ranked. I'll let you. You've not looked at this yet. You told me you haven't. So unless you're a liar.
No, I'm honest.
'Kay.
Honest man.
I believe you, Dylan. You're an honest man. All 3 local schools are ranked. Mizzou, K-State, KU. Where are they in the first AP top 25?
I'm going to go Mizzou 14, Kansas State 17, and KU 21.
Wow, close. KU 22. So you think they're really slighted. You think KU is just their underdog mentality, disrespected.
Yeah. Put it on the bulletin board.
K-State 18.
Man, I'm just
one off.
What's Mizzou? 13?
11.
Okay.
So Mizzou should feel really disrespected from the Dylan Michaels ranking right here.
I'm the only one that picked the over last year, by the way.
Not this guy.
Maybe not you, but definitely Jason Anderson did not have the over.
I don't even remember if I did or not. I wasn't in the ZOUs last year.
I think it was a pretty high over, too. So I was very, very optimistic about Mizzou football. And Brady Cook, I was the only believer. So
you were a believer?
Only believer.
He cooked up a filet mignon last year.
As John Morant says, everyone can stay on that side.
He cooked he cooked up a nice medium rare filet mignon last year.
He did good.
Delicious.
He did really good.
I thought it was going to be a overcooked Russell Wilson style. You leave it in the oven overnight, burnt pizza. Brady Cook proved me wrong.
Haters.
He proved me wrong. Hey, I'm man enough to admit it,
Takes
Dylan.
a Kansas guy to back Mizzou. I know. I understand.
Hey, I said KU was going to be good last year and K-State. So don't come at me, dog. I'm an honest man. I'm unbiased. If anything, I'm harsher on Mizzou because I went there. I know the pain. My bachelor party is going to be there. When I die, I want Mizzou to be my pallbearers so they can lay me down. They can let me down one last time. Okay? It's like, when you have I'm an only child, so it doesn't really work for me. Dylan, do you have any siblings?
I do.
So, for example, it's like you have a younger brother.
Younger sister.
So, you can rip on your younger sister.
I wouldn't, but I understand where you're going.
But no one else can rip on your
Right.
younger sister,
Yep.
right? That's kind of being a Mizzou fan is like that. I feel like K-State has a little bit of that as well. Like K-State, I'll see K-State.
That is sports.
Yeah.
Friendship, siblings,
life.
Yeah. Everyone can rip on, Chiefs fans can rip on the Chiefs, but Bills fans can't rip on the Chiefs. We can make Kadarius Toney dropping jokes. They can't make Kadarius.
That's
Toney,
fair.
right?
That's fair.
So something like that.
Any surprise though? KU 22nd.
No.
K-State 18. Mizzou 11.
No. I'm glad Missouri's in the football playoff to start because they should have been that based off of last season's performance. Now, hopefully they can continue because obviously last week's, job is not this week's job. You have to continue to improve, and also you're going to have a target on your back. You're not surprising anybody in the SEC this season.
Well, good point, by the way, because last year it was the Mizzou was the...
It's the Texans.
It was the... Yeah.
It's kind of...
The Texans,
the
Detroit.
Lions.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, everyone knows you're good now.
I think
so they're
Lions.
not sleepwalking or expecting to do this or that.
Lions are a good comp because Jared Goff, Brady Cook shaking hands. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Luther Burden.
Sure.
Shaking hands. Dan Campbell.
I was going to say, is that it?
No, man. I guess they're
Dan Campbell and Eli could not be further apart.
But
they're great coaches. They're just different styles.
I do think Mizzou would be on the outside because Notre Dame, what do they count in? They're not in the Big Ten. Are they in the Big Ten now? I can't remember.
Who knows?
They're their
Your
own
guess
thing.
is as good as mine
But
this year.
there's going to have to be the group of 5, right? You're going to have some of those as well. It's not just the top 12. It's also a group of 5. There's some rules and regulations in regard, but still the point remains, and it's a good one. They're at least in the top 12 to start the season. I wasn't too surprised. K-State, I think K-State fans might feel a certain way. Being 18, I think K-State fans might think they should be a little higher. They're one spot behind Oklahoma State, right? I think it's because the unknown of Avery Johnson. Like, I like Avery Johnson. I think a lot of local people like Avery Johnson. But if you're doing this poll, you got to go with kind of what you know. Avery Johnson played a little bit, and he looked solid. Why'd you mark that?
I got to listen to that.
Did I say something bad there?
I think so. Actually, I know so. But
what did I say?
I'm not repeating it.
What did I say?
What were we doing with the poll? What were you saying?
Brother. Dancing on the pole.
Oh, come on.
I'm being facetious. Don't do this to me.
So, yeah, you are dancing whenever you use that word to describe a ranking system. That's what I would be doing. I'd be calling this the AP Top 25 ranking system. Just to avoid
It's a poll.
Any cuts, so yeah.
It's
I
a
know.
poll.
I understand.
Okay? Get your mind out of the gutter. Get it up like a pole. All right. When we're talking about don't do that. You know when I'm making a
yes.
Gosh dang it. I'm gonna leave Friday. I'm gone Friday. And all I'm gonna hear are these cuts because I'm gone. And
you didn't have a lot last week, though.
And I was here last week.
Right.
You guys wait to play all the ones of me being a dumbass when I'm gone so you can rip on me. It's
No.
It's unfair.
No.
It's unbecoming, Dylan, quite frankly.
Unprofessional.
All right, Big Ten, Kansas, Arizona, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Utah. Is that it? 5 teams? Am I wrong here? 5 teams in the top 25?
I'm going off you, looking at it.
Oh, I guess that's fair. You're not looking. Yeah, Kansas, Arizona, K-State, Oklahoma State, Utah. Looks like 5.
Yeah.
Pretty good showing for, I think, a conference that I think most people assume is down this year, right? A lot of people pretty high on, at least locally, K-State and KU. Kind of give some credence to some of those Big 12 predictions earlier on. Utah coming in at 12. Oklahoma State, 17. Then Arizona, 21. I'd have KU above Arizona. We'll take a break, come back. I do want to talk more about the Kansas City Chiefs and some of the press conferences we heard from Carson Steele, Andy Reid, Jaden Hicks, Xavier Worthy. We'll also be joined by Mick Schaefer in the 1 o'clock hour. We'll take a break, come back, more Zone next. Sports Radio 810 WHB. Going to a couple of the comments from the pressers today. Jaden Hicks says he was content with his performance, but said some plays could have been made. I thought Jaden Hicks looked really good in his first showing. Jaden Hicks looked great for Kansas City, I thought, on Saturday against Jacksonville. So I was very impressed with the rookie. Says for him, the new kickoff rules is an adjustment, which it's going to be for everyone, but Jaden Hicks wanted to make note of that. Said Justin Reed is helping him out a ton. I don't know if you noticed this, Dylan. He said he put the helmet on today. Don't know if Jaden Hicks was supposed to say that or not, but did say Justin put the helmet on today. Whatever that means. So I thought that was at least of note. Jaden Hicks says at times was getting a little tired. He also attributed that to not just the weather, but playing some special teams, not something he's completely used to. So something to keep in mind. I know Jaden Hicks didn't play a ton in this game, but did say he was getting a little tired and needs to make sure he plays through the whistle. Going to look up his snap count now. See how many snaps he played. 47% of the snaps. So he played 27 overall, and then he played 10 on special teams, so 37 total. So just something to keep in mind as they get their stamina up for the regular season. Xavier Worthy did talk about how the first play of the game was actually supposed to be for him, but then it was taken away. I don't know if you saw any of this. We were talking a little after the game. We're like, how do you not get a touch for Xavier? Just generate a touch for him. Well, they tried. First play of the game was for Xavier Worthy, but it was taken away. Xavier also said he wanted to stay in a little longer, especially as a punt returner, because he wants to get that first punt return out of the way. Wanted to make sure he gets one. Thought that was kind of fun. And he did say he will be back there returning, and he has been watching a lot of Devin Hester. I don't know. Do you want him watching Devin Hester? Like, there's only one Devin Hester.
As opposed to who?
I don't want him running back and forth. Someone who goes north-south. There's only one Devin Hester. It's like when people say, I loved watching Dante Hall. That's great, but don't do that, because you ain't him. I'm not saying he can't be, but there are a lot of imitators. Only one Hester. Still fun for him to watch, though. He did also say the playbook was the toughest part of training camp, but he's always in it. We'll take a break, come back. Mick Schaefer up next. It just seems like no one wants to work.
Nobody
anymore.
wants to work anymore. These, what are they? What are we? Generation Z? Gen Zers?
He might
like
be a
Jason?
millennial, though.
No,
He
he's
might be an
probably-
old millennial.
He's an old millennial or a young Gen Xer, but I'm going to call him a Gen Zer because he's not
Yeah.
showing up to work. You think he's quiet quitting? He might be quiet
Oh,
quitting.
is this a quiet quit? He
Yeah,
just
it
gets,
might be a
hey,
quiet
hey guys,
quitting.
again, I'll be there. You know what? I won't be there today, but maybe tomorrow.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Louisville. Not Louisville.
He said he's supposed to be back tomorrow.
Sure.
So we'll
sure.
see.
Man, you know what? Thank goodness us boomers are here.
Yeah.
Us three boomers
Us
are
three
here
boomers, yeah.
to get stuff done. Give the people of Kansas City their sports knowledge.
Yeah, we lay down the law. When they hear Mick Schaefer and Sterling Holmes, people automatically think hard workers, never take a day off, first one in, last one out.
Getting their hands dirty.
I think they think that about us.
Gym rats, but with work. We're
yeah.
work rats.
And this is a good time to say I'll be gone Friday. I'll be out Friday. Friday's different, though. Friday, come on. I mean, that's just different.
Labor Day, you might see me one day that week, too. So, yeah, coming up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
we never
take some
miss
time.
days. We
yes.
never miss days.
Yeah, but I mean, right here, right now, we are dedicated.
August 12th on a Monday at 1:02 p.m. Year 2024. I don't want to get this.
Where'd the summer go?
I looked outside. It's gloomy.
I know,
It's
right? Where'd the summer
depressing.
go with the time and with the temperatures? It's going to get hot again this week.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Let's go.
Because it's kind of depressing right now. Like I'm a little sad. Like the past couple of days, I don't like when summer ends. It really bums me out. 'Cause I'm a summer boy. Like you know this about me. We've talked about 100 degrees. I'm fine with it. I can golf, take the doors off the
right.
Jeep. I'll go to the pool, go outside at night, smoke a cigar with my bourbon. I can't do that when it's cold. I'm putting a jacket on. No, I ain't doing that. So I'm ready for the weather to
I
heat
was
back up.
defiant this weekend. We were on a lake and it was 59 degrees. I'm like, I don't care. I'm getting in the lake. So we got in the lake.
How was it?
I mean, you get used to it eventually. Yeah, you're fine.
Eventually.
Eventually.
Well, not the water temp, but the beers start flowing, and
Sure,
your
yeah.
body temp becomes beer temp.
Yeah,
and that's
no,
when it
you're
really,
you're in it for the stories and the experiences, and So I was defiant. I'm not going to let these temperatures tell me it's fall because
No.
it's not.
No, don't let them do that to you.
No, so but it'll get hot again back this week, especially maybe for the Chiefs game on Saturday. We'll be out there. Hey, that game's gonna be on KSHP 41, guys.
Well, now you're confusing people. You're confusing people.
I'm sure we'll get emails about that.
How many emails, calls, or tweets did you get?
Oh, I mean, me personally, I got probably no less than 20 emails, and I mean, it's we just there's a lot of people. Like I said before, you can let 99% of the people know, but you're still missing a lot. And so, game time from like 5 to 7. Oh man, inbox got lit up, and then
Were mean ones, or were they mostly respectful?
oh, mostly mean. Oh no, hardly any respect. No respect.
No respectful. Okay.
Those people, the ones leading up, there are some respectful ones.
Sure.
And with genuine questions of like, I live here. Is NFL Network going to block it out, right? I can't, I don't have YouTube TV, but I do have, I think I can get 30. How do I do it? Great questions. Great, nice people there. But in the heat of the battle, man, there were some,
Well, don't say names. Can you read any of the emails? I would love to know this.
Bet I probably could.
I feel like Dylan, this is acceptable, right? He can read this, just not read names.
Yeah, just don't read mine, please.
Well,
I was pretty upset at the time. So.
I tweeted you yesterday on Sunday at noon, and I was trying to find the Chiefs game. I figured they always play Sunday at noon.
Right, yes, always Sunday at noon on our channel.
Mick, I was telling Sterling earlier that I was messing with you the whole week about knowing and listening and hearing everything you were saying, and I'm a YouTube TV subscriber, and come game time, I'm looking for it, and realized, like, I didn't pay attention to a word you said the whole week.
You didn't?
And so, yeah, I had to go get an antenna that I have the receipt for. I'm going to return in 30 days.
Well, I don't know if you can now. Now it feels like you should be barred from doing
I'm
that.
following policy.
Do you have the emails, Mick?
Yeah, I've got one. It's funny. I got home on Sunday morning before I went to work. I texted my son like, "Hey, let's watch the Chiefs game together," because I just got bits and pieces from Saturday night. I was gone, and he's like, "Awesome." So we get there, and I'm looking through. I can't find it. Then I realize I'm like, "Yes, we have YouTube TV." What I've been saying all week, like we didn't. I didn't record it. It didn't happen. Couldn't have happened. So yeah, here's an email. WTF? Question mark. I don't think they're talking about the old Washington football team.
No, that would be WFT.
For the majority of viewers that have YouTube TV, can't watch the Chiefs because you want to report the stuff we all get on our phones anyways. Are you serious? I think I think
that was
we're
your
serious.
choice too.
Yeah.
Were you serious, by the way, or were you joking?
People, and I get it. People don't understand. I don't understand insurance business, right? I don't understand doctor business, so I can't expect people to understand TV business. But a lot of people they jump to conclusions. They assume that they know a lot when they really don't.
And they assume that Mick Schaefer, of all people, decided, you know what, this is all your decision.
I cannot express sufficiently my dissatisfaction with your absolute pathetic inability to provide the Chiefs broadcast of the preseason game this evening. Just go to our website, in quotes, which we never said that. Let me describe the inaccuracy of your website, DirecTV, Channel 38, My Aunt Fanny. I have DirecTV Stream, and there is not crap. As an absolute second-rate organization, why would you bid for the rights? You stink. There we go. Thank you. Appreciate that.
This is like celebrities read mean tweets right now. I like this.
Yeah.
You got any more in there?
There's a lot more in there. I'll
we can
stop,
make the
though.
We have 53 minutes.
You can make the whole thing
We
about
have
this, but
53
I'm
minutes.
choosing not to.
How did it make you feel, Mick, when you get these mean comments?
I have thick skin. I'm a big boy. I wear big boy pants.
Thick skin, was it like a birth defect? Or
It is, yes. It really helps out in the cold. No, I'm not used to this, but I mean, if you're in our business, right?
Yeah,
radio or TV, you got to let stuff slide off. Otherwise, you're going to be busy responding to all the slights you get, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whether they're right or wrong. And so I let it all go. I figure that's the best response is no response at all.
Oh, you didn't respond to any of them?
No.
Wow.
Well, he's responding now. He's telling them that.
And this is actually a shared mailbox that a lot of other people see it. So honestly, they don't want me responding because I get sassy.
You get sassy. I can see you getting sassy.
And so, like on Twitter, I have a rule. Like if you come at me and you say something that's mean, I don't care. Whatever.
Yeah.
If you come out and say something that's dumb, I don't care. If you say it's inaccurate, I don't care. But if you're mean, dumb, and inaccurate, I'm like, I got to throw this out to the wolves.
Yeah.
I got to throw them out to the wolves because then you're going to get lit up. And so, I'm just, you just got to let stuff slide.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not sensitive.
I thought you did a great job.
I don't know if I can be offended. I bet there's something, but I can't think
I mean,
of anything.
especially for
can
that.
I be offended?
Because one, it's not even your.
Do we spend the rest of the
Certainly
show
not.
trying
If
to
you make fun of my
offend-
family, I'm like, okay, whatever.
Well, it's not your department, and also it's not your,
Yeah, but I mean,
obligation
it does. I mean, it. A lot of people get upset, and rightfully so. Like, I'm kind of one of the faces of it, right? There's a lot of people behind the scenes, and a lot of decisions being made outside of my capacity. but we're the ones out in front. And,
He did have the most speaking lines, I think, in that
I
commercial.
did.
It
yeah.
does
Totes
say
obvious.
sports director
Yeah.
as well. So I would assume that you would have a lot of sway here. And so I'm assuming everyone's going to be understanding preseason game 3, right? I assume everyone, no one's going to be mad. Then those
Buckle in, buddy.
Those emails going to be.
I mean, this time we at least. I mean, we in NBC said we could not do it. We would have loved to put on 41, but NBC said, no way, you're not preempting the Olympics. That's a rule. That's a common rule. It's obvious. And so we at least preempted the game for sports.
Yeah.
We're going to be preempting the game for politics in preseason game number 3.
Oh, that's
God
going to be
help,
great.
God help us all.
Oh, man, I'm sure people will be very
Oh,
understanding.
God help us all.
And it's all, I hear it's all you're choosing to do, correct? Mick, you're the one
Once
that's
again,
choosing
I'm not even
this?
going to joke about this. Once again, if it was up to us, we would have put it on. We would have re-aired it all night long, and it would still be going, right, until we don't get ratings. But we can't because of other entities like NBC and the NFL and the Chiefs and the Olympics that will all have their own rules, and we're just kind of stuck in the middle catching the heat.
Yeah. Nice.
Well, that's fine.
Just make a graphic. Just do like a graphic with all the different services at the top.
Yeah.
And then it shows kind of like a little graph
should.
of like, here's where you can find it.
Can you put like
Here's
a
where you
liner
can't.
on the bottom
Yeah.
of the program of like the politics? Can you just put like a line like go to 38, the spot for?
Buddy, I think
is that legal?
When we signed this deal, right, to be home to the Chiefs, there were 4 preseason games, and it wasn't an Olympic year, and COVID hadn't happened. Okay, like we are getting screwed on the number of preseason games, right? There's one less. COVID, they banged them all, right?
And they're trying to take more away too.
And then there have been a couple years where, I mean, the Chiefs took off to where like ESPN was like, we want that preseason game, and they just take it from us, so it wasn't on our air, and so, or at least we had to share it. So we haven't got when we forecasted, man, all these 4 of these games we got every year that just on our station, and then the Olympic years kind of put a wrench into that. So yeah. We haven't get all the preseason games we thought
Well,
we'd get.
you know what you could do is just get out ahead for 2028. Just really get out in front of 2028. That could be the move.
Man, I'm just looking ahead to 25. There's no debates, no Olympics. We should be
Should be good.
should be. Knock on wood.
Sorry,
All
dogs.
3 on KSHB.
I always apologize to the dogs because every time you knock, that should be a thing. By the way, I'm watching Parks and Rec for the first time, and there's a lot of doorbells. I now realize in that program, a lot of doorbells. There should be a doorbell blocker, or like you can have ad blockers or pop-up blockers. If there's a show and a doorbell happens, or like some knocking, sorry dogs, there should be like a way to get that to not happen because my dog goes crazy every single time.
Mine's figured it out over time, but
Sorry, your dog's a genius, Einstein.
You know what? I haven't figured it out in the car whenever there's like horns on commercials and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
They shouldn't allow that.
You listen to like
yeah, how are you gonna hate on the dogs when it's like they actually have an ad on our station that says we can't play sirens so people don't think there's actually a police siren.
I will say I hear that whenever like Fireman by Lil Wayne comes on, I automatically think, oh, there's a cop behind me. Like I'm getting pulled over.
And you're listening to that every drive.
No,
in,
but every
aren't you?
once, well, you'll hear like some sirens and songs, and you're like, whoa, and then you're like, oh, that's coming from my car. I'm the dumbass. Yeah, learn that stuff. All right, so Andy spoke today, Xavier spoke today, Jaden Hicks spoke today, and Carson Steele spoke today. Andy said with Hollywood Brown, got the joint back into place, no surgery. Again, it's the same thing that happened to Tyreek Hill, the sternovascular.
Man, and he delivered that line like he's said it a lot of times.
Yeah,
he knew exactly.
No,
that
it
was
wasn't
2000.
sternovascular. It was the.
It was 2019.
Yes,
for Tyreek.
It was the sternoclavicular.
Clavicular. Sternoclavicular. I think.
Sternoclavicular. I'm glad I do this for a living. Shoulder joint. Yeah. So, yeah.
Don't ask Jim Harbaugh to pronounce it.
Because he doesn't know.
No, he doesn't know.
He doesn't.
Body parts.
No.
Injuries.
How concerned are you with Hollywood Brown?
Well, he's not going to. I mean, he's going to miss some time. He's up in the air for the opener. That's my concern level. Like he wouldn't play in that first game. That would be my level of concern. Was Tyreek out 4 weeks? Is that
4
right?
games.
Yeah, 4 games. So that puts it right there. And so,
Yeah, I mean that I'm not concerned for the Chiefs. I don't think that's a make or break thing for them in that opener, but they could certainly use him. And shades of Aaron Rodgers, right? Just first play of your existence with the team, and that happens.
Great play too. I mean, he comes back to the ball.
Comes back to the ball, completion. Yeah,
I think it's a bigger deal in the fact that I don't know who fills his role. Like I don't.
Sky Moore did on Saturday.
I don't know who fills his role. Like. He's such a unique player. I think people see as an undersized, quick receiver and go, well, Xavier can do that, or McCole. No, he is such a unique skill set as far as he's a deep ball guy, but also really good over the middle of the field. Yeah. He's just a really good receiver.
I don't know what his role is. I've seen him for one play, and I mean, he didn't have a role with this team last year, so the answer would probably be
but he's the X. Like he's the guy. Because Rashee Rice was more of a power slot. That's kind of how he was used, which means Hollywood was on the outside. And I'm intrigued to see how the Chiefs operate without Hollywood Brown forever, how long that might be.
I think their ceiling without him is that they can win a Super Bowl.
I'm not disagreeing, but they also lost L'Jarius and like they're pieces that are gone. And the offense was supposed to be much improved, and he was a big reason why. As much as I like Xavier Worthy, let's be real, he's a rookie in Andy Reid's system. They tried giving him the ball, first play of the game, because I was all sitting there going, you're not going to at least generate a touch for Xavier? And they tried. The first play of the game was supposed to be.
I think they got skittish after that injury.
Yes.
They're like, let's get him out.
And they got him out of the game. Six snaps for Xavier.
Especially Xavier, who's,
similar size.
Thin.
Yeah. But I just thought think it's interesting to see who's going to try and take that role, and does that open up a spot for, let's say, a Justin Ross, who made a phenomenal catch. But again, it wasn't from Mahomes. Mahomes doesn't throw those 50-50 balls. That's not his style. So every time we see Justin Ross make a highlight catch, typically it's from Oladokin. Last year, Shane Buechele in the preseason throwing the ball. I just don't know where Justin Ross really fits on this roster.
Yeah. No, I think it's I think they'll be fine. The question remains: who's that fifth guy? Who steps in for him? Is it Sky Moore? Is it Kadarius Toney? I don't know if there's a right answer there. Is it? You roll the dice and you like Remigio kind of had an up and down game on Saturday, right? Is it that guy? Do you know what you've got with McCole and Kadarius? Do you just this is the 5th and 6th wide receiver spots? Do you go with the young guys, see what they can do? We know what these guys can. I would be for that option, by the way. I would be for Ross and Remigio over like Kadarius and McCole. I think Sky Moore makes the team. I think he's on it.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about that now, and I'm in that camp. When I did my 53-man breakdown,
and now is it 7 receivers, right?
Yeah,
because 6 or 7.
Especially if he misses like a week Hollywood, or two, you might have to keep 7, which means only 3 tight ends maybe, or only 9 offensive linemen. There's a lot of spots or a lot of players who I think have a legit chance of making the team, and the Hollywood Brown thing might make it worse for a couple of them. Might make it better for some of the receivers, but might make it worse for a Carson Steele.
Who played at running back on Saturday and looked great.
And one of my favorite things was he got stopped in the backfield, shrugged him off like it was like a little nephew, like he was like, get down.
And then smoked another dude in the secondary.
Justin Ross at one point thought the play was over. He's like, okay. Oh, no, I got to keep blocking.
He might have scored if he wouldn't have gotten his way.
But that's what Carson Steele brings, those short yardage situations. I know people keep saying fullback, but I think it would be just as much at running back as it would fullback. He's a Swiss Army knife. That's what he talked about himself, Carson Steele did. What did you see from him, and was he the guy that did the most good?
I think him or Jaden Hicks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Those are the first two guys. You know when Andy Reid mentions a guy off the top of his head without even being asked after the game on Saturday, he was like, listen, I think Jaden Hicks and Carson Steele make great cases for themselves. The guys that pop from just the game, not having to go back and take a look, when he mentions those two, you know they really stood out, and he's not afraid to put that out there for both those guys. So hopefully it doesn't hurt a guy like Steele, because I think he can be a Swiss Army knife, a guy that can fill that fullback role, which we've seen is a favorite of Andy Reid's in his offense, a guy that could also slide back and play the running back position. Mm-hmm. If when a CEH goes down or you're not getting production from somebody else between the tackles.
Well, Clyde again was sick today.
Yeah. So I don't know how reliable. Again, I feel for the guy. Don't get me wrong, but it's also like how reliable is he going to be? Do you have to keep 4 running backs just in case if he's feeling poorly or?
Yeah, and you wonder if it's just a regular sickness or if it is what he talked about, that gastrointestinal stuff.
Yeah,
that like Frank Clark had, roughly something like that.
Yeah,
and so you wonder that. And I mean, look, in running back is a position that. I don't know. In this day and age, if you're the Chiefs, you're playing 17 regular season games and 3 or 4 in the postseason. I don't know too many guys that are going to hold up and be a bell cow that long. You have to have depth there. And we've seen it before where he's almost had a guy the first half of the season or even the first third, and then another guy the back half of the season, and then somebody else that has fresh legs for the playoffs. But then also you have Carson Steele, who's going to play special teams too, right?
Yeah.
He'll do whatever out there.
Yeah.
So I think he has a great shot, and maybe the injury to Brown maybe more takes away that 10th offensive lineman, or maybe somebody over from the defense, or maybe takes away an Irv Smith. Only 3
I think Irv Smith might
tight
be
ends.
And again, that's why I think this back into the roster again. We're lucky here. Let me phrase that for everyone listening. We are lucky in Kansas City. We're not talking about wide receiver 1 or 2. Yeah. We're not talking about who the defensive starters are going to be. We're not trying to find a damn quarterback. We're talking about guys 46 through 53 on the back end of the roster, and quite frankly, it's more or less 49 through 53. Like Justin Ross versus Irv Smith. Like how, because Irv Smith could almost play the same role, that red zone threat, as Justin Ross, but also you could have some more 12 and 13 personnel with him added in. Noah Gray was being brought up a lot in regards to fullback. Andy Reid was asked point blank, "Did you miss having the fullback?" And he basically said, "No, we just adapted last year." I thought that was a little interesting. I don't know how much you take away from something like that from Andy. I thought one of the more fascinating ones was the kickoff that happened. You saw a lot of big ones for Jacksonville. Saw a couple of decent ones for the Chiefs, but then you saw the McCole Hardman situation.
Do we know yet if it was a McCole situation or a ref situation?
Well, it was, according to Andy, it was a generic Prince situation.
Well, yeah. First of all, he needs to know that rule, right?
That's what it was. He goes 34 should have taken it and gone, and then he said McCole Hardman should have taken it and gone, but he basically didn't blame McCole at all for what happened.
McCole had way more wherewithal than Prince, because it is a live ball when it hits the end zone, right?
Yes.
But we just don't know what the rule is when it bounces out of the end zone. Can you treat it like a sideline play, right? If you're touching out of bounds, like on a kickoff,
sure,
and you touch the ball's out of bounds. Doesn't matter where the ball is, right?
Yes.
It's kind of a weird rule, but I kind of like it because it rewards heads-up play. I like and that can be a big play because you get the ball at the 40-yard line. Are they going to treat the end zone like that? Because that's how McCole was acting, right?
Yeah.
He put his body in the end zone and then touched the ball down, and nobody knew, and nobody still seems to know what the rule is going to be there. I don't know how they didn't envision, okay, we're going to make it a live ball when it hits the end zone, but what if it comes back out, right? Can you still down it? Obviously, I would say you shouldn't be able, if it bounces in the end zone, you shouldn't be able to take it from the field of play back in the end zone and down it.
Of course.
But in this situation where it bounces and lands like at the 1 or 2, can you reach out while your body's down in there and down it? What's the rule there? I don't care either way. Let's just figure it out. And I kind of can't believe they hadn't figured that out.
Yeah, because I don't blame McCole for that. That's just how would he know?
Yeah.
Like how is he supposed to know that when he thinks he's making a heads-up smart play?
Yeah.
Whether it's Dave Tobe, I don't really blame him because the refs don't know. Like, I don't think the NFL completely understands what's going on in that situation. Because if not, if you're a kicker...
I would say this. McCole acted like he knew the rule and that this is what we have to do here. There was no hesitancy, so either he was told wrong or misunderstood it, or he hadn't got it right, and that officiating crew who didn't have a banner night didn't get it right.
But when do they have a banner night?
And that crew especially is one
I didn't
of the
recognize that crew, the white hat.
He's always messing up.
Okay.
You'll see him multiple times this season.
I just haven't recognized it because the Chiefs usually get the top crews.
Right. I will say Andy Reid in his presser today said, quote, on top of the kickoff and the rules. So they're saying we're on top of the kickoff and the rules. I don't know if that's a slight at the referees, but he also went on to say it was good for the officials and us to see it.
Yeah.
So
I'm thrilled that it happened in the preseason.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Yes, it happened now when it doesn't matter. So you can try and figure out what the actual ruling is for the regular season. Because if you're a kicker then, do you try and just put a whole bunch of backspin on it, almost like a punter, then have it hit in the end zone, then land, come back? I know it's very, very difficult, of course. I mean, but maybe you're only, because if you get the 30 instead, and you saw a lot of big kickoffs, a lot of returns for a lot of yards throughout the entire NFL, not in this game. You just try to do that, because if it comes back into the field of play, then all of a sudden you have to take it out of the end zone, and at best you get to what, the 6, the 7? Like, I'm intrigued by this. What are your overall thoughts, though, on the new kickoff rules? Because it seems like it rewards, I don't want to say bad teams, but it's going to make games closer, because if you're starting at the 45, now you only have to go 20 yards. Maybe it incentivizes teams that have great kickers.
Well, that's if you kick it out of bounds, right? The 40?
Sure, but how many long kicks? My point is, how many big kickoffs did we see in this game? We saw a 73-yarder. We saw a 45.
We saw the big one with Jacksonville. My thing is defensively, right? It almost eliminates a second and third level from the kick cover team, right? Think of it before, you're running 40-plus yards downfield. The fast guys are going to get there first, create the first level.
Sure.
The next fast is kind of a second and a third level there that's going to kind of mirror and make sure. So, like, you make the first 3 or 4 guys miss, doesn't matter. Usually you're going to hit that second wave, and you'll be taken down at the 30, right? Here, what we saw at the Chiefs, he made the first 3 or 4 guys miss, and there was open field there because the whole first wave's already down there. That whole first level's there, to where, like, I think it's going to be easier to break it. I was talking to my son today. He was thinking, like, they're just going to end up just booting out of bounds and taking it to 30.
That was my point.
And I wonder if, like, the penalty isn't enough for kicking it out of the end zone. If they made it to 35, if less teams would consider doing that. But it's such, I mean, it's only a couple weeks into preseason here, so I haven't seen enough. I haven't been wowed by it. I haven't been like, whoa, aside from how they line up at the beginning.
Sure.
But once the ball is in the air, I haven't been like, whoa, this is so different.
Well,
I think you're going to have, one thing, a ton of penalties, right? You're going to have guys moving beforehand. You're going to have guys going past the inside that little 10-yard or 5-yard box separating the two teams. We'll see that, and then we'll see maybe some confusion back there with, like, okay, like we saw, this bounced in the end zone, now it's out. This bounced first and then into the end zone. Can I down it? What's the what are the rules? Because there are a lot of there's a lot more rules now with it.
So I'm taking out McColl's for a second here, just for the sake of argument. The Chiefs had 3 kick returns. They averaged 29.33 yards per return. The Jacksonville Jaguars had 4. They averaged 41.5 yards per return. Now they had
29's good to begin with, first of all. Now so 41's great.
They had a 73, but they also had a 45.
Yeah.
So my point is, I think you're right, and that was kind of what I was trying to allude to as well, is you might just kick it out of the end zone then, because
29's close to 30. Yeah, kick it out of the end zone.
But that's 29 from where you catch it.
Yeah.
You're not just always kicking it to the 1-yard line. It might be starting at the 5, and then you get 29. So now it's at the 34.
Yeah.
Like,
ideally, you want to hit it in the landing zone and have it caught in the end zone on a bounce and down, because there I think you only get it at the 20. If it hits in the landing zone and you down it in the end zone, it's only at the 20.
If Butker can do that, because he did that. He did like a little chipping.
That's the plan.
A little pitching wedge.
Yes.
And bounced it perfect. I mean, obviously, if everyone can do that, they would. But if he's very good at that, that is like stealing 5 yards on special teams all the time.
Yeah, I think that's the deal. Kind of lower and have it hit, because hang time's not going to matter, right?
No.
Not going to matter. They're already down there. And try to just have that oblonged football cause chaos down there, and like you said, save 5 or 10 yards. So haven't seen enough. I'm not, like I said before, it feels kind of gimmicky, but I thought the baseball extra runner rule in the extra innings felt the same way about it, gimmicky. But now
that is gimmicky.
It is gimmicky, but I'm okay with it. It kind of forces the action. I'm intrigued by it. There's strategy there.
You don't have 18-inning
regular
season
Give
games.
me the gauntlet.
Yeah. I think also, if I'm a team and there's momentum on my side, I am kicking that into the stands. I am giving them the ball at the 30, because I'm not even chancing them getting any momentum on a kickoff return whatsoever.
It's only 5 more yards.
And exactly. I'm giving up 5 yards.
What
and
would you
I'm
do if
keeping
there's
them,
13 seconds left in the game?
Well, we know. Anyway, I'd still kick it out of bounds. Or pooch it. I mean, do the Butker thing because maybe they'll pick it up, run time, knee it, or something. But because if they kneel it in the field of play,
and I haven't seen on that. Clock still doesn't stop till it's touched, right? They're not starting it.
I'm saying
once
like
it hits the
not
ground.
redoing the
I'm
whole.
saying, can they pick it up in the field of play and kneel it right there and kill the clock, or do they have to actually advance it if they pick it up in the field of play?
I think you can kneel it right there.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you get it at the 25 both ways, or the 30
Yeah.
at worst, then you're just basically I'm just hitting.
I don't think you
grounder.
can kneel it, at the, but I don't think
You can give
can't fair
yourself
catch.
up.
You can't fair catch it.
Yeah, there's no more fair catches, right? Yeah.
Yes, then I think kneeling would fall into the same category.
there's 13 seconds.
Well, I
you kneel
mean,
it at, you might have to
you
get it
give
to
yourself
7.
up. It's,
Well, yeah, but
you can give-
but now let's say it's at the 7, so now it's at the 7. You don't get it to 25.
No.
Yeah.
But if you like in that scenario, Bills and Chiefs, where like
13
you,
seconds.
you have 13 seconds left, and you don't want to waste anything.
Right.
You get it right there, fall out quickly, and maybe 1 or 2 seconds.
Sure.
Rolls off the clock.
But if you
yes,
don't-
you've got it maybe the 15-yard line, but the deal is you want to save time there, and time kind of wins out over yardage.
So if you are the Bills in that situation, I'm kicking a grounder.
Grounder. They should have they
should
have done.
Yeah, that's
Creed
true.
Humphrey to Mahomes, baby, throwing them grounders.
Yeah.
Any King before we take a break because we got learn funny is best. Any Kingsley thought? I just 6 snaps. It's hard to get a view
it.
from, but people seemingly love what they saw in those 6 snaps.
Patrick is upright. Yeah, I'm just fine with that. Patrick is upright. So we'll learn more this week for the. This is Lions, right? Lions, then Bears.
Oh my!
We'll learn more, but honestly, I mean, I trust the Chiefs and the coaching staff, and we'll probably learn the most. We'll see the most of him against the Ravens on opening night.
I will say him playing 6 snaps is pretty conducive to what we all assume.
He was part of the unit that looked a lot better than the second unit offensively.
But that also means we assume he has left tackle in the bag. If you're playing 6 snaps, then coming out, this is no open competition. You're now
Right.
I know
you're not like Caliendo,
yeah.
you're starting, but we still have you with the second team as well. Yeah.
No, he's good to go. We'll take a break, come back, learned funniest best with Mick Schaefer. The Zone rolls on after this. Should be back tomorrow. Should be if he, wants to work. Or
Quiet quitting.
Quiet quitting could be. Could be. All right, time now for some learned funniest best. I believe I go first. Is this how it works?
That's
the guy
right.
sitting
then me,
in this
and
chair.
then Dylan. Yes.
Yeah. All right. I learned that Carson Steele has an alligator, but he's had the alligator since the 2nd grade, and the alligator's name is Crocky J.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
How big's that alligator now?
90 to 100 pounds.
Where does he keep it?
Wherever he's from. It's not here in KC because he goes, you have to have there's laws.
Yeah.
So where's he from?
Does he have land? Hopefully he keeps it on.
Yeah, he has got a pond or something. He has a lake that he owns. He is from, he was born in Indiana. Greenwood, Indiana. Yeah.
Wow.
4 or 5 feet in length. But he has it apparently in some water grove that they have in Indiana, I guess.
Interesting.
I thought it was pretty interesting. And, when you would, play with your dog, you roughhouse with your dog a little bit.
He does that with a gator?
He's roughhouse with the gator. He's 1st and 2nd grade. He's a roughhouse with the gator. No wonder he's so strong because it's a gator.
It's a gator. It's a gator.
All right, who's next? Is it Mick?
It's me. Speaking of, that reminded me, this was going to be my best, but I forgot to send it to Dylan, but I'll mention it. Do you see the Jack Caglione the Grand Slam that he had over the weekend? And the call, I need to look up who the kid was making the call for Quad Cities. And so he hits it into the Mississippi River. Mississippi River goes right next to their stadium. They have it set up right there. So right field, if you hit it far enough, it's going to be Pac Bell Park or whatever, San Francisco. It's going to go in the drink. And so he hits it in there, and the call is there's a gator in the Mississippi. I'm like, that's a good call right
That's
there.
pretty good.
He had that in his back pocket ready to go. So my learn this week, I learned that if you are typing something on your phone and you want to delete it, you just shake your phone and it'll delete.
Wow.
I didn't know that. Is that an obvious thing?
I didn't know that.
My wife taught me that. I was
when that message comes up and it says undo?
Yes, 'cause it thinks that you were shaking it. That's what you wanted.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it'll say shake it, say undo typing, yes. Which I don't know if that's faster usually or not.
I think I can. I've had an iPhone, I think, since I was, I don't know, for years, and I think I can count on my hand how many times I've actually used that feature.
My wife uses it a lot. I started typing in the car, and I see her shaking. I'm like, what are you doing, you maniac?
That's probably why none of us do that, is because they're like, what's that person doing?
Oh, you delete where I'm like, wow, okay. So I learned that.
I had no idea. You know what I learned? I learned that from Mick.
There we go.
Yeah. Dylan?
That
segment's about.
So I learned that the Australian Olympian Rachel Gunn.
Let's go, Ray Gunn, baby.
Oh, Ray Gunn, yeah.
Yes, the participant in the breakdancing competition for Australia. She's actually a PhD, a doctor of cultural movement.
Believe it or not, this is also my best.
And that's why they gave her the nod. So I learned
she's a doctor of cultural movement.
Maybe the worst dancer I've ever seen.
Or maybe the worst reason to ever call somebody doctor.
Exactly. Well,
or a dancer.
Although when she spun around and kept her hand on her chin the whole time, oh my gosh.
I can't watch that and not laugh, and then also read all the comments and not laugh as well. She had a lot of confidence out there, killed it. She still thinks she killed it.
I can't find the routine in its full entirety with announcers. Does that exist anywhere?
I don't know.
I saw the one of the routine with the sound. And by the way, this is also my funniest, was this one. Not my best. My funniest is the videos of the Australian breakdancing lady. I'll just go ahead
and they'll
say
put it to the Family Guy.
Yes.
There's so many edits out there that are so
I thought
funny.
you were going to say that you haven't seen that routine. I was going to say, you go to the lake a lot, just catch a fish and toss it on the dock. And
That's exactly
it. Dude. It is bad.
So, did anybody see her beforehand? Or there's no, I don't think Australia has Olympic qualifying.
No. I went and looked, and, I didn't look, but when you search her name, because I was verifying that this was true, there's tweets from 2023, the Australian team account celebrating her qualifying in the Oceania breakdancing competition, which essentially I imagine the Oceania equates to them in New Zealand.
And she got no points, right?
Zero.
Yeah. And it's the only.
I don't know how it's. We're done with that, right? No way
yep,
that's
I
going
was
to be
about
in
to say
LA.
it's the only breaking competition that'll ever take place.
I mean, that was a punchline leading up to it, and an even bigger punchline.
Well,
after.
what ended up being great was that she was. That's my funniest. She was so bad that breakdancing got taken away.
Yeah.
Like, so it's kind of like a silver lining where maybe she was a
Thank you.
plant.
Thank
She may have
you,
been a plant
Ray Gunn.
of like.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was your funniest. So we'll just go to funniest.
Yeah, that's my funniest.
My funniest was, well, when it was several days ago, right? Whenever 2 suspects were arrested in an ISIS plot to attack Taylor Swift concert in Australia. Remember that? Somebody subtweeted that and said ISIS is about to find out what an unhinged group of fanatical true believers really looks like. Well done, X.
Well done, X.
That's what it was made for, right?
It was made for moments like
It's
that.
made for
Yes.
that, yeah.
Yes.
Dylan, what was your funniest?
My funniest is Logan Gilbert. I think he is a pitcher for
Seattle.
the Seattle Mariners. He threw 7 shutout innings and immediately went to the locker room to play NCAA 25. And they actually snapped a picture. You can find it if you just search Logan Gilbert on Twitter.
So before the game even ended?
Yep. He was in there playing NCAA 25. The guy who got it and put it on Instagram just shoved 7 innings shutout. Got a recruit base. It's a good little post.
Nice.
That's awesome.
So, hey, if you don't send happy birthday to those recruits, they're going to go to USC or Ohio State.
right.
You have to be in there.
Mick, what's your best?
So my best is you're getting this order all mixed up.
Well,
but
I'm so.
that's fine.
There's only 3 of us.
There's so my best. I love the Olympic pass off to Los Angeles. I love the Olympics overall. It was a great games. I felt like NBC and the U.S. side, they didn't overthink it. They're like, we're going to take our funniest and most relatable people and put them out there, like Jimmy Kimmel, Snoop Dogg, all these. We didn't overthink it, and it was the same with the pass off. We're like, oh, we're going to L.A., Hollywood. What are we going to? Tom Cruise, great, love it. Tom Cruise, what's he going to do? Well, he's going to run and then ride a bike, love it.
He's going to jump from the top of.
He's going to jump. He's going to do all these stunts. Love it. He's going to go to the Hollywood sign. The two O's will return that in the Olympics. That's an easy idea. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have Red Hot Chili Peppers play on the beach. That makes sense. And then Snoop and Dr. Dre and all this was just an easy call. I'm sure by the time we get to the opening and closing ceremonies in 2028, they're going to be weird like they always are.
Yeah.
Like they definitely were Sunday in France. But I really appreciated the simplistic approach that NBC took to that. Like, we're just going to take our biggest stars here and have them doing obvious things, and everybody's going to love it. So.
I thought it was amazing, too. I watched it last night. Chili Peppers are my favorite band, so I thought that was awesome. Maybe at some age, maybe you put a shirt on. I don't know. Well, Kiedis too. Kiedis.
Well, he had that mesh thing.
Well,
on.
then he popped it off for the next song. They did one more song later and popped that bad boy off. But no, you're right. They didn't overthink it. It was Tom Cruise jumping down. By the way, he's like, how old is Tom Cruise?
Flea, I just looked up, at 61, and he's got to be around that too.
Yeah. I was going to say 55 plus.
Tom Cruise, 62.
Yeah.
Imagine being 62. Mick, how old are you?
62.
30,
I'm
31.
47. In
15 years, are you going to be wanting to jump down from the top
Maybe
of the...
15 years ago, I wouldn't have done any of that stuff. Okay?
I just find it crazy. 62-year-old man jumped.
And I've seen behind the scenes, he does.
Oh,
I mean, he was jumping out of that plane. He does so many of his own stunts. And
it's basically like a Mission Impossible trailer or like
exactly
advertisement every year.
I like it. Instead of Tom Cruise jumps out of something, say 62-year-old man jumps from something.
Yes,
and I think that has a really different connotation. Different viewpoint in your mind.
Yep.
All right, Dylan, best for you.
The best for me is the Tyrese Halliburton tweet post gold medal
really
winning, saying when you do nothing on the group project but get an A. Very good self-awareness. The old B-rabbit strategy of just taking away the ammunition of the other people. And a little self-burn also went very well. It was a viral tweet, and everyone seemed to love it. And also, the comments are, hey, you'll be there next year, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah,
so.
It changes.
Jason,
if you do that, it
Jason
changes
Tatum,
to you'll be there next
maybe
year.
Do that
Did
next
he play?
Time,
He played some, right?
Tyrese?
Yeah.
Not really.
At all?
Not as much as Tatum got to, thankfully.
About time.
Yeah.
Tatum, let's be real. He's not better than who played on the floor those
Now we
days.
can get back to
better than
pressing
LeBron
matters like
James.
the economy.
LeBron was incredible. Are you serious? You out of your gourd?
Yeah, he's better than LeBron James. I watched the NBA.
He was not better in the Olympics. Did you not watch the Olympics?
Well, Jason Tatum didn't play in the Olympics, so.
Because he wasn't good. He was struggling like he's Joe Namath out there.
Yeah, LeBron averaged 14 points. I saw that.
Was he worse
You
than
don't have to
Derek
be a
White?
stand just because you're in that chair.
I don't even like LeBron. I'm an unbiased support, an unbiased observer.
Yeah. Maybe you should
I
be
give
biased.
credit where credit's due. I'm not a LeBron guy, but he was incredible. He's 39, putting up triple doubles in the Olympics.
Tatum could have done that. He's way younger.
Hater. God.
Man, sounds like you're a fan.
I'm not, though.
Noted Celtic over there.
Yeah.
I hate the Celtics, too.
Yeah, that's the
what I'm
biggest
saying,
thing.
yeah.
I'm a
That's
Sixers
why.
guy. Like, I mean,
So you are biased.
I am biased.
Yeah, there we go.
I didn't even think of that, though. It's fine. Al Horford should have played. Best, the Olympics party at my house. Not my house, my friend's house.
Oh, thanks for the invite.
It wasn't for you.
Okay.
It was
Well, I know, for me.
Or me.
Well, it was.
Sounds like.
It was at my. Sorry, it wasn't for you guys. It was for me, my fiance, one of my best friends, and his fiance. We're getting married like 3 weeks apart, and so there's 4 of us. So two couples, right? And all of our like group of friends surprised us, and so there was I think 12 of us there, 16 of us there, teams of 4, and we did like all these like minute to win it games.
Oh my God!
And it was.
Let me guess, you won.
No,
What?
didn't.
What?
I mean, I'm still telling the story. I know. It's crazy.
Good
I
job.
want to give a shout out because it was so much fun.
Growing.
Really enjoyed it. I was the Netherlands. We gave it our all. Didn't quite come
Love
up on
the Netherlands
top,
colors.
but,
Love the
Yeah,
orange.
I rocked my old Blue Hills when I worked there in high school
Yeah.
polo. Surprisingly still fit. Got larger actually somehow. Either that or that was the style back.
There
in
it is. There it is.
When I was tiny. Well, I don't know how that was a humble brag. I don't think it was.
You said it got larger. So you've lost weight. Is what you're saying?
No, I think I was making a joke of I was probably looking like the early 2000s like draft class. I was probably swimming in it. Because I was
okay.
smaller back then. I was tiny. I was small.
So the shirt got smaller then.
I think the shirt got bigger though somehow. Still, it just feels baggy. Felt baggy. Okay. The shirt's not the big part of the story here.
Okay.
The point is, I wanted to give a shout.
You're
out
the
to
big part of the story.
No,
Okay.
shout out to the Kofelds for hosting us because this
Good
was a
one.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Very good time. So that was my best.
Nice.
Yeah. Even though we lost. All right, we'll take a break. Come back. Mick Schaefer has something that he wants to pose. Some question, it looked like. Or an answer.
No, we just talk about stuff.
Oh, I think you had an answer for us.
No, I don't.
Oh. Well, I thought he had something.
Well,
He's got something, but it's not a question or an
quarterback
answer.
ratings, right?
Orlovsky, quarterback ratings. And Mick did a whole bunch of research on this. That's coming up next.
I read the story.
we got to be quick here. Mick, the floor is yours.
Well, Orlovsky has his quarterback ratings out, and 7 different categories like arm strength, ball position, mechanics, rushing ability, pocket position. Mahomes equals out to the very best. But I want to give you a quiz. There's only one guy who's ranked in the top 10 of all 7 categories. It's not Patrick Mahomes. Who is it?
Oh, because it's Dan, it's got to be Joe Burrow.
It's not. He's not on arm strength.
Josh Allen.
No.
Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott
What?
is 5 through 10, one of those in every single category. Mahomes is number 1 in arm strength and pocket presence. Burrow ranked 2nd in pocket presence, oddly enough, and took 92 sacks in his 2 best seasons.
Dan knows a lot about getting sacks, right?
He does. He thinks that's a positive stat.
Well, I say we should sack this take, the program, up next.